What is up, everybody? Joe Carlton here. Welcome to Aces Up podcast. Tonight we have two guests who were on my very first episode, Michael Reedy and Dennis Michelson. They will be joined by the professor, John Bush. 4 weeks are in the book. We've seen enough football. We have enough data that we're going to basically make it a checkpoint episode. We're going to go division by division, and we're going to give some takes on how we feel about some of the teams, the trajectory of some of the offenses, point out some of the defenses that we could exploit to use as like tiebreakers if you're trying to determine who to flex or who to start in your lineup. And we're also going to do a little bit of self-reflection. We're going to talk about, we're each going to give one player that we wish we had more of, one player that we overvalued, one player that we were higher than consensus on that we hit on. And we're also going to identify a mistake that we made in a specific draft. So grab yourself a cold beverage, as always, get comfortable, and enjoy the show. Hell yeah, that intro never fails for sure. I seen us all bobbing our heads, banging the drums, getting ready, getting fired up. How's everybody doing tonight? Mike, Dennis, John, how we doing?
Good.
Wonderful.
Nice. All right, so this is episode 18 of Aces Up podcast. Let's just jump right into it. We'll start off with the self-reflection segment. We're each going to give one player we wish we had more of. I'll go ahead and get the party started, and I'll mention quarterback Josh Allen. My emotion might have gotten involved in this a little bit. I despise the Buffalo Bills, and I do know that Josh Allen can be disrupted as an NFL quarterback. It's looking like that he can't be disrupted as a fantasy football quarterback, though. He's a rushing machine. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's scoring over 30 points a game in 6-point passing touchdown scoring systems. I don't have any shares this year, and that's my guy, man. I wish I had more of him. I was taking Joe Burrow as my elite quarterback. I also have a Jalen Hurts. Otherwise, I was waiting. That was kind of my strategy this year with quarterback. But if you took Josh Allen, in the back end of round 3 or early round 4, he's totally paying off right now, and you're probably in the top half of the standings at least. And, I wish I had more of him. How about you, Mike? Give me one player that you wish you had more of.
There's 3, and
there's 3.
When I'm only going to name one. When I'm done, I'll use it as a segue to something we were talking about before you joined too, right? So I love the Josh Allen one. I don't think I have him anywhere this year. Puka Nacua is going to be mine. He is killing it right now, and in like standard half point PPR overall, he's the number 1 wide receiver. I think I have 2 shares of Puka, and it really had to do with my draft position. I was mostly drafting in the top 4, it seemed, in drafts, even though they were random order picks, and I wasn't taking Puka there, right? So he's just really killing it. I mean, Nacua this week was off the charts. 3 out of 4 games, 10 targets or more, 13 receptions, this week, 170 yards and a touchdown? Like, that's just crazy numbers, right? And his target shares just off the charts. He only has one touchdown, and he's the number one wide receiver. But those are two of the guys in Dennis's MVP score with perfect scores. There's a third one, and we can segue to Dennis and John to tell you all about that stuff.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, there are 3 perfect players using my MVP index so far. One is not a surprise, and that's Christian McCaffrey. The other is not a surprise. It's Puka Nacua, and I wish I had more of Puka. I'm thankful that I co-manage a team with the professor, and he was adamant that we're taking Puka. And I said, yes, we are. We're doing that. But my third player that's perfect score is a guy that I got a lot of early in the draft season, but when his ADP surged after he signed his contract, I didn't get as much of James Cook as I really wanted to. So that's a player that he's the other third guy that is the perfect score right now. Using my MVP index, it's a perfect 200. You can't beat that. And after 4 weeks, having only 3 guys perfect shows you how picky my MVP index is when it comes to following scoring in fantasy football.
It's consistency, which opportunity. We all 3 agree on that. Javonte Williams is mine because so far down, such a value. I understand 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You know how these running backs go. They're here today, gone tomorrow. But for now, assuming the injury bug is done, and by the way, I pledge to tell the injury bug no more. We've had enough. Quit it. And so Javonte Williams is who I wish I would have been extra greedy and hit Dennis over the head, and let's get lots and lots of him.
I like that call. You know who I was taking in that spot more than Javonte Williams, and it's killing me right now, and that's Aaron Jones. He was going in that same range.
Yeah.
And, man, I wish I had some more Javonte Williams. I agree. I love that call. Go ahead, Dennis.
In our TSA league, we grabbed Javonte Williams, and then we came back with Miles Sanders and Jadon Blue because I knew that Dallas starting running back position was going to be a nice position to own. The only problem I had at the beginning of the year, and the professor and I talked about this a lot on our podcast, is will it be a healthy Javonte Williams? Will it be rookie Jadon Blue? Or will it be Miles Sanders finding the fountain of youth and all of a sudden being something again? We just weren't sure. But I do have a lot of Javonte Williams, but I've got more Jadon Blue and Miles Sanders. So it's kind of how the drafts went, though.
Yeah, I took Javonte Williams in one draft in a home league, and my friend who runs the league texts me immediately, Javonte Williams, huh? I said, dude, I love the Cowboys offense this year, and whoever the starting running back is probably going to be valuable. I think it's Williams right now, at least to start the season, so I'm taking him. That's how many shares I have of him, though. Just one. You could get Blue a little bit later, so I have more Blue. I think I waived them all already, though. But yeah, I wish I had more as well.
I have one share as well, and I said the same. I was saying the same thing, Mike. If I had to pick one of the Dallas running backs, it had to be him. He had over 70 reception, over 70 targets, not receptions. That would be nuts.
Nick Scripp and I wrote a lot of stuff last season thinking he would bounce back last season from his knee injury. It took him a little longer than expected, really, is what's going on. He looks good, right?
He does
on
look
the
good,
field,
yeah.
physically, he looks good.
He's got that burst. He's got that burst back, and he's embracing the contact, and he certainly looks good.
We were too early.
Yeah. I got one more player I'll bring up. I'm sure that we all wish we had more of because he was basically free in drafts. He was going in the 15th round or later, and that's Quentin Johnston. I mean, do you guys have how much? Do you guys have him or?
I have a lot of him, actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so that's why you didn't mention him. But that's another guy I wish I had some more of. Our guy Rico, our TSA guy Rico, Modern World, his Twitter handle at Rico's Modern World. He's a Chargers fan, and he was hammering the TSA chat all summer that we're all sleeping on him, and he totally nailed that. But the thing for me was the Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman running the football. That's what kind of threw me off, and I was trying to figure out, there's a lot of mouths to feed. So how is Quentin Johnson going to be consistent? How is Ladd McConkey going to be consistent? What if they start using Rondé Gadsden? Because I was an original Rondé Gadsden truther. I have him in all my dynasty teams. I only have 3 dynasty teams, but I have them. And I was just like, I thought they'd all be inconsistent to a degree. And the answer was Ladd McConkey has got the shit end of the stick so far. I mean,
not the football, though. That's why. So he has like a fair share of targets. He's still getting 20%, I think, share of targets. All of them have all three, roughly 20% share. He's just not catching the ball.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, with Quentin Johnson, when it comes to young players, I like to look at 6 and 10 game stretches. What are their best 6? What are their best 10 games? And sometimes that will transfer to a full season using my MVP index. And he was rating out at like 120 on the MVP index, which is sensational. And, the crazy thing about the Chargers, so many people, the consensus, the noise, the all the experts said that Ladd McConkey would be WR3 this year. They got it right. It was on the Chargers. He's WR3 of the Chargers right now. It's crazy. It's crazy what we've seen. And I'm
he's
so
not
glad.
bad though either. Ladd's not a bad player,
No,
right? Like
no,
he's a
and he
really
will-
great wide receiver. It's just not working out right now.
He'll turn it on. He will turn it on. It's just a matter of the way that offense is going. Defenses were trying to stop McConkey early, and Johnson just runs a different route tree. That's why I liked him. I thought, there's no competition for target. But now Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey have a competition for the type of targets they get.
But the preseason told us we should have been higher on Quentin Johnson.
So, guys, when I hear this, I'm reminded for folks listening, notice the fluidity of our opinions. He's doing this, but it could change. It's never always and never. When somebody is telling you this is the worst, this is the best, having had experience, and I know these guys have, and I guess he's still a youngin', but
compared to
we
us,
all understand the winds blow, and you could hear that behind all that. And so when Dennis and I talk, I try to bring up the top-down concept. Is think about these big concepts, and that's one that we should all celebrate, is not just getting opinion after 4 weeks. Well, I'm getting rid of everything McConkey. It could change. We could be talking about him. What a resurgence in our playoffs. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, I haven't given up on Ladd McConkey. I just was trying to make a joke there, but I wasn't as high on McConkey as a lot of people. But if he fell to the right spot in the draft, I couldn't let him go another round because this is a very talented player. But I thought he was being drafted a little bit early. And
I agree, Dennis, and that's why I'm so happy I don't have all that much of him. I have 2 shares.
I have 1.
I have 2 shares out of
because
25.
He fell to me just like you guys are saying, and I was like, "Oh, excellent! I'm finally going to get it to draft Ladd. Like he's finally in a spot where I'll take him. Boom, I'll take him." But yeah, I wasn't taking him as early as his ADP.
The crazy thing is that early in drafts, I was grabbing all the Keenan Allen late that I could, because he was free, because he didn't have a team yet. And that worked out a lot better than I ever dreamed it would. With not only landing back with the Chargers, but the Chargers, deciding that they were going to throw the ball again. And if you look at Herbert's back class, it all pre-exists this coaching staff. But if you look at his back class, he was putting up back-to-back seasons over 100 MVP, which is fabulous.
That's
You
a
can't
one.
do that unless you have a lot of volume. Do we expect him to have this much volume early on? It's tough, but the Chargers are an incredibly well-balanced team right now. They obviously laid a bit of a pile on the field last week, but it was a case of this team is going to be good and solid. You're going to have a lot of good fantasy football players off this team all year long.
It's the landing spot and coaching and play calling thing, right? Similar to last year, Romo Dunze was not a good draft pick as a rookie because he was behind Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. And, if you may recall, a lot of Chicago fans came at me hard because I said it was a bad landing spot for him because of the situation. And this year, I'm the opposite. And you know how people are. You flip-flopped. The situation has drastically changed. Keenan Allen's
That's right.
more. Keenan Allen's with the Chargers now. We didn't know that's where he would land, but it was the perfect landing spot for him, right? And when the stars align like that, it just works out. When it doesn't matter how talented the guy is, it's not going to end well.
Nice. I just want to shout out everybody tuning in live and chiming in the chat. Let's hit a couple of these questions real quick before we jump to the next one. We have a drop Ertz for Waller. I'm not in on that. I think that McLaurin is going to miss maybe another couple weeks. I'm actually waiting for him to hit IR. I'm anticipating the worst with that situation. Jaden Daniels is going to eventually come back. We know that he targets Zach Ertz. Ertz is more consistent. Darren Waller, it hasn't quite earned the snap shares yet. I want to see his snap share increase a little bit more. We know he's going to command targets eventually with Tyreek Hill missing, but I wouldn't drop Ertz. Maybe I would drop somebody else if you have some other dead weight on your roster, if you have a deeper bench, but I wouldn't drop Ertz for Waller right now. You guys have thoughts on that, Mike? I saw you.
I do. 3 targets. Not enough.
Yeah.
He could be a fluky touchdown scoring machine like Evan Ingram was in Miami because he's definitely a good.
Jonnu Smith? Was it Jonnu Smith?
Oh, Jonnu Smith. Sorry. I'm thinking who went to Pittsburgh and I'm getting the name wrong. I took a red eye last night home, so if I appear off, I'm very tired. Jonnu Smith was a fluky touchdown machine last year, right? And he could have that role and just we might see this 4 targets, 1 touchdown every game type of thing, but 3 targets, 1 game. He got cut from the Giants. Let's tone it back a little bit, right, and see what happens. It's if you want to take the flyer and stick him on your bench and waive somebody who's been horrible, or you made the mistake and spent all your fab on Trey Tucker last week, hey, do it, but don't go crazy.
I agree with that.
16 snaps is all he got, and he got 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's the kind of efficiency the professor loves to see. But when Daniels comes back, I expect Ertz to be a thing again. Whenever you have a 2 quarterback thing going on because of injuries, you're going to see the new quarterback have a whole different guys that he's targeting than the original. But the original comes back, it's all going to go back, and Ertz will be the guy, I think.
Nice. And the other question. Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say the data that gets me interested, and Dennis and I discussed this, I don't know, about a month ago. 5 targets is kind of that point where I'm starting to get really intrigued. I'm looking historical. So anytime a tight end is doing above 5, that's getting my attention. Having just heard 3, what I'm going to do, I was putting basically $36 out of 1,000. I'm going to cut that back a little bit now on my fab, but I'm stingy on my fab, so 36 probably not going to get him anywhere. But I just can't stand somebody like me to get him for 36. So I'm going to make somebody pay a little bit. But 3 targets, I'm looking for 6 or better. Then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be watching this. This is interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I'm with Mike. But if you want to stash him and see if his role increases, I mean, we have to see him stay healthy too. We know that he is like fragile. So
I'm going to segue as if I was the host here a little bit, and not necessarily mistakes, but you're talking 3 guys who like to talk roster construction here, Joe. So like seeing that on the agenda for me, and not necessarily mistakes, because I don't know process-wise, from me interacting with these guys for 5 years and my own process, I can tell you that we might not view it as a mistake if a guy didn't work out. It still was the right time to take that guy. And like we're talking things like roster construction here with what John's saying. I look for somebody who's getting X amount of targets, right? So
yes,
I for instance, have a league where you get points, 2 leagues actually, but where you get points for return yards for a wide receiver himself.
Yeah.
And there, I look for how many snaps and how many targets is this guy getting that does the returns. And if he's getting, say, 4 targets a game, I want him. And people are like, why? And I'm like, they never go and look at the fantasy points. They just look at the name. I have Turpin playing right now from the Cowboys in my team, getting me 15, 16 points a game.
Nice.
And they're, how are you winning with this guy? Well, I mean, you're not paying attention to the rules, guys. And roster construction in this league dictates this guy's good, and he's my flex. And now I'm looking at the other McCaffrey for the same reason, right? His targets went up, and he should be useful in a league like that because he's getting 3 or 4 targets a game with the return.
I've got a deep league like that too, where I had a guy come to me asking for a trade. He wanted Omarion Hampton, and I made him pay up big time. So he wanted to give me 2 running backs and 2 first-round draft picks, and I said that's fine, but I want Torrey Horton too from Seattle, and we get points for returns. So that's a valuable flex to play. It's a very deep 14-team league, and we start 3 wide receivers and 2 flex. So you need a lot, and those returners, I mean, knowing the rules is a big key. Now, it is tough in today's NFL because sometimes they swap kick returners out fairly often during the season. So that's kind of, you got to keep on top of that. But I'm looking back at that deal I made. I gave up Omarion Hampton. I got Woody Marks, Brian Robinson, Torrey Horton, and 2 first-round draft picks. I think I'm doing okay for now and for the future.
Yeah,
but you're right. It's all about roster construction, Mike. And Professor and I were talking about this during the preseason. During draft season, the worst thing that can happen to you, one of the worst things that can happen to you in fantasy football, is drafting that 45th wide receiver and having him finish 40th in points. And people are going, yeah, but he finished above his ADP. I'm like, great. He didn't do shit for me on the roster.
Yeah.
But, I would rather have the guy, I'm looking for top 24 or just sucking. Because if he sucks, guess what? I get to change players.
We're talking about you, Calvin Ridley. We're talking about you.
Yes.
You get to purge guys, and like I got dynasty leagues where I got Ashivas from the Bengals, when he was a rookie, and stashed him on my roster. But now he's an expendable roster piece. If I need a spot, he's gone because he's not doing anything consistently. And now the Bengals aren't going to do anything consistently. So now the third wide receiver is garbage over there. Even if somebody gets hurt, he's not going to be anything. But that's the thing is, Professor and I are always preaching, churn that roster, man. Just don't sit still. I like to look at the season, and Joe, you're perfect with the timing of this, looking back, because Professor and I, being broken down horse players, we look at after week 4 is like hitting the quarter pole. Or in poker, after 30 minutes sitting at a table in a Texas Hold'em tournament, after 30 minutes, I know who I got to beat to move to the next table. I may not have the best, I may know in 30 minutes that I'm going to finish out of the money because I'm going to get absolutely beat up by these guys. But after 4 weeks, you got a fairly good idea. It's like hitting the quarter pole. I know where my team is. I know how I'm set up now. And this is the time not to give up if you're doing bad. This is the time to pivot and take some big tries.
Speaking of pivoting, I want to touch on this on this trade here, because I think this is a good pivot for Apple season. Thank you for tuning in and asking us a question here. We got to move on to this question before we end up on here for 4 hours. So my thoughts on this: he gave us some great context. He told us his roster. I'm making this trade all day because you're getting the best player in the deal, and that's Josh Allen.
Me too.
You're getting the number 1 quarterback in the NFL, fantasy points wise. You have Omari and Hampton as your hero RB or RB1. I think he's going to be a monster the rest of the season. He is a true workhorse back. I'm not worried about his durability either. So I'm confident in riding him as my RB1. Benson, I'm not necessarily huge on, but in with having Hampton as your anchor, I think Benson you can lean on as your RB2. I would maybe try to be active with the trades. Maybe you could play Charbonnet, spot start Charbonnet based on matchup. You have Chubb. I wish you had Woody Mox, because that would make it even more easy to make this trade. Maybe you can trade Caleb Williams. Use Caleb Williams as a trade piece, because he is a top 10 fantasy quarterback right now as well. I would definitely make this trade. You're giving up a running back and not a wide receiver to obtain Josh Allen. So that's the part of the trade you're losing. I'm doing this all day. Make that trade.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
No, we'll move on. We'll move on to our next question here. I want to each give one player that we overvalued in drafts. I'll start because it's really killing me right now. It's Chase Brown in the 2nd round, absolutely destroying me. My love for the Bengals and the Bengals offense. I thought the Bengals offense was one of the best offenses to target this year. Joe Burrow and Chase Brown are absolutely killing me. I should have more Jonathan. I was either taking Chase Brown or Jonathan Taylor in that 2nd round if I took a wide receiver in round 1. And sometimes I would double tap the RB 1st and 2nd round. That's one of my strategies over the last couple of years. I've thought the elite group of running backs were the tier is that 1st tier to the 2nd tier is a big gap. So I thought if you could grab 2 of them, you had the chance to grab 2 of them, absolutely do so. I wish I had some more Jonathan Taylor. I took Chase Brown over him, especially late in draft season on the big money drafts. Let's look at his points real quick. He had 13.1 points with Joe Burrow in week 1. Then 8.5 in week 2, 6 points in week 3. He had 10 carries for 3 yards in that game, which is absolutely horrible. 0.3 rushing yards per carry. He had two 2 yards per carry in week 1, 2.9 in week 2. He played a little bit better this past week, but the Bengals are still just an absolute dumpster fire right now. The offensive line is the worst offensive line I've seen since like the New York Giants over the last, like, it's a bad offensive line. The quarterback play's not getting any better. We thought Jake Browning would maybe rebound a little bit. I'm not confident in him at all. If I was the Bengals, I would possibly make a trade for a quarterback. I don't even know if that's a good move or not, to be honest with you, but it might just be a lost season for all Bengals players not named Jamar Chase. And
pretty much lost for him too.
Yeah, but you can't bench him. It's not like you're going to bench Jamar Chase. Yeah,
I already have.
Have you really? Wow, you got balls. You got balls, Mike.
I have deep. I'm deep at wide receiver, so I benched him. He's not going anywhere. I'm keeping him, but I benched him. And I was just going to say, with Chase Brown, you might want to keep him as well. So the next 2 games, he has 2 more really tough run defenses, and he probably has had the toughest run schedule the beginning of the season so far. The first 4 weeks, it gets easy the rest of the way for him week 7 on. So hold on and see what happens. Don't trade him away for nothing or anything foolish like that. Their offensive line is bad, but once the run schedule lightens up, things might change. But every Bengals player, I think, is someone we regret drafting. I have a lot of T. Higgins. I have a few Jamar Chases, and I had a lot of Joe Burrow. And
so did I. Yep, so did I. Mike, one player you overvalued that wasn't a Bengal.
I would have said T. Higgins. We'll move away from that. Calvin Ridley. Why? Because I didn't trust my own analysis, and everybody else pumped him up so high, and his ADP wasn't bad. It was pretty good, right? I don't remember where I got him. Late middle rounds, right? And I said, he'll be my 3rd wide receiver. And now I'm like, oh, God, anybody else I would have considered there would have been better than Calvin Ridley. Anyone. So the good thing, as Dennis said, is I take guys like that and I move them to the end of my bench, even in redraft, and whoever the worst guy on my team is becomes the guy who is expendable for the next guy I may want to add. And Calvin Ridley has already been that guy a couple of times so far this year. He will be on the other team soon too, because I have a lot of Calvin Ridley.
Nice. Dennis?
I would have said Chase Brown as well. That since the offensive line is worse than I could even have imagined it. I knew it wasn't a strong offensive line, but with Burrow, I was sort of happy with Chase Brown's, ability to get you a decent floor with passes out of the backfield. But mine, I'm a diehard Chiefs fan, and I was wrong on Isaiah Pacheco. He has not looked good. But I will say this. What we're seeing with Javonte Williams right now, maybe that's Pacheco next season. Everybody gives up on him. And the only thing good about Pacheco is you didn't have to really pay a premium to get him on your roster. And I was getting him as my RB3 or RB4 on many teams. So it's not like it was a move that has hurt me badly. Chase Brown, I was getting real early drafts when he was dropping into the 3rd round, man. I was like, give me all the Chase Brown I can get. That one stings harder because he paid more draft capital for him. But Isaiah Pacheco, I think I was wrong on him. And, I'll echo what Mike said, though, about Tennessee. Also, I had the Tony Pollard can't be this bad theory, and Tony Pollard has been non-existent. But that whole Titans offense has been non-existent. So it's easy to pick a Titan when you want to have disappointing players. But I'm thrilled to say that most of my guys I'm not happy with were not high draft capital. So things are looking up in that regard this year.
I think given the hype, Brock Bowers is ninth. You wanted more. If you're going to step in early tight end, because you were having to grab him way early. So you were passing on some of these hot dogs that, versus a Ferguson or Kraft. You could have waited and got the drop Bowers. And so I think the proportion of what was seen is like he's in his own tier. I mean, I heard all sorts of crazy stuff. This guy's the next Kelsey. Just, there's only one Kelsey. And if you've looked at his statistics, not this year, but just historically, him and CMC have done things that are just amazing relative to their position. And Bowers has not shown up yet. I know we could be that Bush crazy in about week 16, but right now at this quarter pole, boy, I'm sad I put a little money on this horse. I'm afraid that Paul's getting a little loose around that turn, Dennis.
Yeah, Bowers MVP index this year.
Uh-oh.
Well, Dennis, you muted Dennis.
Yeah, he got excited. Yep, there we go.
I think the cat hit it. Am I back?
The cat hit the mouse.
You're back.
Yeah, the cat hit the mute button. I think the cat was sick of me talking. Now his MVP index is only 25. That's like miserable. Like,
but before the season, Dennis, he had a nice 24. What was his MVP?
He was about 80.
Yeah.
So it was
so a third of his value, and that's to me
awful.
The first tight end. Everybody was saying, I wish I wouldn't have drafted him.
I only have a few shares in Dynasty. I have 0 redraft shares of Brock Bowers because he was way too high.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Dennis, real quick for the audience, explain the MVP index and how it's calculated again.
Would you explain it in 2 seconds, please?
Absolutely. So there's 3 things that a player can do for you every week in fantasy football. He can basically cause you to win by having a huge points game. He can cause you to lose by having a shitty points game. Or he can keep you in the running, he can keep you in the matchup. And what I do is I take a look at those 3 outputs. I combine them in a very simple formula, add them up. 80 is okay. 100 is like a top starter, top 12 kind of guy. And 200 is perfect. So nobody will hit 200 for the season, but we did have a couple of 140s last year. So 140 is super, super elite. And what it does is it measures upside consistency. It's not just consistency, it's upside consistency. And I think that's the difference. But this whole idea wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Bob Lung, the godfather of consistency. This is the scientific method in action. You take something that is very good, and I want to say I've improved on it, but I've made it mine and I've made it unique. And in fantasy football, if you can come up with a unique way of sorting the players that works, it will get you value versus ADP. And that's the whole purpose of the MVP index.
And I do want to say, Joe, and for the audience and Mike, having these numbers is a lot easier than saying 20th ADP. Okay, 20. Yeah, that's kind of good. When he says 100, once you've dealt with it, and if you've played horses, there was a time before Andy Byers' numbers when all you had was just the timing on the horses. When Andy Byers says it's a 115 horse, wow, that's a good play. So this is a shorthand way for us to think in our heads these player value, worth, consistency, kind of that whole synthesis. And that's what I like about the MVP. Now that I've had 3 or 4 years exposure, is Dennis will say something and I'll say, oh, that's a WR3 type then is what you're saying. And so that is what I think helps Dennis and I, especially on a fast draft, you're using a little bit different metric, but it means something to you. So I would urge people, to try to think about something and come visit us and read Dennis's MVP. I think it's a shorthand way.
Absolutely, I
to
like
look.
it. I like it
I
as
like
well.
it too.
And one of the things that
Go into the formula a little bit. Then
the formula is pretty simple, but proprietary.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
But no, but the whole idea is the formula, it rewards great performances and penalizes severely for someone who throws a donut hole at you. Okay, because the worst thing that can happen is if you've got that one player that you were counting on as your RB1 and he throws a 2-point game up there, you have lost the week.
Probably.
There's almost no coming back from that. But one of the coolest offshoots, and the professor challenged me this year to kind of put some percentages to things.
Yes.
I've used the MVP index to decide where I'm going to go shopping for cheap running backs.
Yes.
Okay. And so we knew going into this season that a prime target was the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. But was a question of who the hell's going to be the lead running back. But we knew that job was going to be a good one. But the Woody Marks thing is something that we were all over very early, even when Mixon was still in the mix down there at Houston, because what I look at is I want to look at a running back that is capable of getting to the second spot on the depth chart. Okay. I'm not smart enough to figure out who the most talented guy is. But what I've been able to figure out is who's got the opportunity to get to that second spot or to the first spot. And I'm very pleased to say that using the MVP in kind of a reverse method to come up with something that we dubbed the opportunity index really led to finding some rookie and some cheap running backs that are really going to be paying off. Didn't know how good Scatabo was coming out of college. He made some impressive runs, but everybody's highlight reel from college is always impressive. But Tracy, while having a good season, in quotes, in air quotes, because we don't even know how to define good season. Everybody's got a different definition. But in MVP, he was only a 62.
And that's bad, folks.
That's just kind of like hanging on.
That's a 3. That's an RB3.
RB3 level, yeah.
Clawing as you're scraping down the wall.
I don't even want him in a flex spot at that point. And so that told me that job was wide open. And so 0 Tyrone Tracy on my rosters, even though he's a Purdue guy. It's last year. And a lot of Scatabo. And when we were drafting rookies for our dynasty team, and we got to the second round, we had an early second round pick that we had traded Aaron Rodgers for 2 years ago to get that early second round pick. I'm like, all the good running backs are taken. The Hamptons are gone. All these guys are taken. But Scatabo's got the opportunity index. He's got this shot at this spot. We missed on getting Woody Marks. I waited 1 round too late. Otherwise, we would have had both Woody Marks and Scatabo on that team, and that would have been terrific. But I went a different direction. Well, I wasn't unhappy going with Egbuka, so that made me happy anyway. But when we use that MVP index, it also targets opportunities for running backs. And, my draft system, I throw a lot of darts on the wall at running back. And, it's like throwing all the spaghetti up on the wall. One of them is going to stick, and they're going to pay off that way.
All right. Let's
that
move on.
More than Joe wanted. Yeah.
No, we're good.
Always more
I'm
than Joe
gonna.
wanted.
So what I'm gonna do going forward is I'm gonna just briefly say my piece, and I'll just let you guys roll. Let you guys do your thing. I'm cool with that.
Oh, we could talk draft strategy forever, so I didn't
I
want to
know.
jump in on that. I
Well,
shut up.
this next one involves roster construction, so I'm sure we'll be going around
Yeah.
the horn a few times.
We like that too.
So I want us to each identify and discuss one mistake we made in any specific draft we did when it comes to roster construction. And I also want us to point out, where we could have went better. And I'll start. It happened to be one of my NFFC RotoWire online challenges, $350 buy-in draft. It was the live New York draft, the one I took the 4-hour train to and do. I did not plan on going 0 RB. It just ended up that way. My mistake was I really wanted Dak. I ended up with some good wide receivers. That's how I ended up going 0 RB. Just all these wide receiver ones felt. I had the number 1 pick. I took Jamar Chase. Then the second round, trying to think of let me bring up the roster real quick. Where is it? Okay. So the wide receivers I ended up with were Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, and Rashee Rice fell. And that's how I ended up going 0 RB. I just couldn't pass on Rashee Rice at the back end of round 5. On that 5-6 turn, I did Rashee Rice and I pushed up Dak because I felt like he wasn't going to fall back to me, and I wanted Dak. That was my mistake. I really wish I took a running back in that spot and targeted Drake May later on. That's the change that I wish I did. I ended up, my first running back that I took was Aaron Jones. We know that he's on IR. Yeah, not good. The running backs I started this past week were Kenneth Gainwell, who dropped a 30 burger and saved my week, and Rico Dowdle. Those are the 2 running backs I'm playing right now. I'm hurting bad until Aaron Jones comes back, and I'm actually not even that optimistic about Aaron Jones because Minnesota does not look as competitive as I thought they would be. And the fact that Jones is already injured, it could be one of those injury plagued seasons, and it might take him, a few weeks to just get back into stride and doing his thing. So that's the one roster construction mistake. The team itself isn't, I'm not in the cellar, but it's going to be tough sledding going forward because I messed up my roster construction. So, that's important if, season-long redraft total points contests. So that's my mistake. Mike, I'm going to hand it over to you.
I have one team that's 0-4. I'll pick on that team, 12-team league, where I know everybody values quarterbacks more than I do. So I have to either draft them early or wait to pick them where I want them. I waited. I got Brock Purdy where I wanted him, but some of my other draft picks were, Mike Evans, who's now out. Calvin Ridley, who I said I drafted in a lot of spots because of his ADP, useless. Jamar Chase, right? So I want to say I made a mistake. I don't feel like I made a mistake with who I drafted where and when because I don't care about Calvin Ridley. Where I drafted him, he was a 3rd or 4th wide receiver. Right now, he's not. He's a 3rd wide receiver on my team right now. But because of the players I took where I took them in this draft, man, I'm 0-4. And like they weren't necessarily mistakes during the draft, but in a couple of cases I should have went running back there, and I normally would have, but I tried to be a little different in this draft, because if you do the same thing every draft and you crap out like this draft did, then I'd be 0-4 in every league, right? So, you know, I wish I had done more of like what I normally had done. My strategy this year was in redraft, I typically went 6 to 8 picks without taking anything other than running backs and wide receivers. And it was usually because I saw people going Bowers, Josh Allen. And then they go back with another tight end. And I'm like, I'm going to make you pay, sucker. I'm going to keep taking wide receivers. There's plenty of quarterbacks. And once we get past the first 3 tight ends, I don't trust any of the rest of them. And I'll just take Hunter Henry, who didn't get drafted in most leagues. And I'll be happy because he's a top 10 guy.
Right.
And
I have a ton of him too.
And it's working right now. It's working on most of those teams, right? The only thing I hated was in Yahoo, they loved my drafts. They kept giving me A pluses, and I was like, "Oh no, I am so doomed."
That's right. C- is where you want to be, Mike.
B, C-, you know you have a winner, because that's when you have those later round picks that are all going to hit. When it's an A, it's like, no, Yahoo likes this guy. You know he's not going to do it.
Yeah, you can only go downhill. Only bad things can happen to you when you have an A.
Calvin Ridley being my 4th wide receiver. They thought it was great. They were wrong. It's not great. Yeah.
Nice. Dennis, any draft mistakes?
Yeah, the biggest mistakes that I made did come late, thank goodness. But in Superflex leagues, you know, the Jaden Daniels injury has really hurt me, because I went with a lot of, Superflex leagues where I was taking Daniels early. I was getting Mahomes as my second quarterback. And I'm like, how the hell is this happening? So I felt pretty confident with those two. So I said, man, I don't want to spend. Usually my strategy is not to take in a Superflex is not to take a super high quarterback. I'll take like 3 from it, but I'll take 3 in a row later on, and I'll get like the Baker Mayfields and the Brock Purdy's and Jordan Love, Dak. Those are the kinds of guys that I'll usually build around in a dynasty. But I was getting a lot of this, Jaden Daniels is falling to me, later in the first round than he should be going. So the injury is what was kind of hurt me there. But what I did as a result of getting Daniels and Mahomes, for instance, is I said, well, I can take a little bit of a chance with my third quarterback. And I always love to have 3 quarterbacks, even with a shallow bench in a super flex, because I like that variability. I like to be able to play different guys during the bye weeks or when somebody does miss a week. But I chose poorly with my third quarterback choices, albeit they were cheap. But Cam Ward, Anthony Richardson, and Russell Wilson were my guys. And
you waited too long.
Here's the thing: is I was thinking Russell Wilson will not lose that job until after I use him to cover my bye weeks, and then late, I don't care. After that, forget it. Bring Dart in. I'm okay with that. But I didn't count on the Giants giving up hope of making the playoffs and trying to get something out of Dart. I didn't foresee that Dart would be a better quarterback option either. But so those teams where I did get lucky and got the Daniels, Mahomes, front end, I haven't been paid off with my third quarterback choices. But I'll tell you guys, if that's what I'm bitching about after 4 weeks, I'm sitting pretty nice shape. The only other mistake that I kind of made in some of my 1 quarterback redraft leagues is I took too many project running backs. And there were a few times where instead of following my damn formula, my better than 0, which says get both halves of a potential backfield split, get Chubb and get Woody Marks, and then it'll play into to your strength there. Somebody's going to win the job. That's how last year I got so much of Bucky Irving, because I took Rachaad White and I said, well, I better take Bucky Irving to protect him. And it worked out the opposite way. But this year, I just kept missing on those backups to my own handcuff. So I've got a couple of leagues where, because of injuries or because of things not going the way I hoped they would with Chase Brown, that I've ended up with a little leanness at running back. But again, those are the things I'm complaining about. I'm pretty happy.
I just want to throw a lesson out there for everybody, like John did previously, that I know the three of us are big on, right? Like, plan to be wrong when you're building your team. Plan to be wrong. You're gonna be wrong. So, like, I love Dennis's take both halves of the running back by committee, because if you're wrong on the guy you thought it was going to be, you're going to be right because you have the other guy. So I did a lot of that with the 2 wide receivers for the Bears because I like the offense this year. I did a lot of, if I don't have Romo Duns, who I have way too many shares of, I have DJ Moore, because I was like, I'm going to hit on one of them for sure. I don't know which one, but one of them is going to really hit.
Not only that, though, Mike, I just want to throw in there, if Luther Bird and a close to 11 happen to pop, and Chicago decides they can move on from DJ Moore, now you got yourself 2.
Yeah, that's
Good.
probably going to happen. But plan to be wrong, right? When you're drafting, the reason why I was going wide receiver and running back for 8 straight rounds was I was recognizing what the rest of my leagues were doing, which was allowing me to get good players like that while they were going quarterback and tight end. And some of them taking really crappy tight ends way too early too, by the way. And I said, oh, well, this is great, because if somebody like, say, DeAndre Swift doesn't work out for me, I'll have this next guy coming up right behind him, and I won't need to play him. And I knew John would nod on something like plan to be wrong, because I know how you think, right? And other people don't think this way. Other analysts are going to tell you, no, my guy's going to hit. There's no way you guys are going to hit. There's no way.
At the Fantasy Football Expo, I asked a question of the experts up on stage, and this isn't to take a rip at the experts up on stage because they've forgotten more about fantasy football than I'll ever know. But I said, I like to handcuff my own running backs. And I explained why.
They don't like that.
That just in case I'm wrong about who the guy's going to be, I'll be protected. I said, and I even mentioned the Bucky Irving effect. I ended up with 80% of Bucky Irving on my teams last year because I was heavy on Rachaad White. Now, if I didn't get Rachaad White, I was still taking Bucky Irving because I like the kid. But the whole point is, I asked, am I right? Am I wrong? Why? And they were like, limiting your upside. Okay, fine. I'm cool with limiting my upside because I want to have 3 running backs to choose from as my starters for the fantasy football playoffs. So if I have managed, and this year it's worked in kind of the reverse Bucky Irving thing. I was big on Caleb Johnson with Pittsburgh. I thought this kid is too damn good. Jaylen Warren's been too brittle over the years to possibly be the guy. But then I would take Jaylen Warren right after I took Caleb Johnson because he was also cheap. And I could now have the backfield, and I was all set with somebody who is going to be leading that team. So, you're so right, Mike. You've got to be humble enough or whatever to understand you've got to hedge your bets. You cannot put all of your eggs in the same running back basket, because if I bet on 6 backfields, 4 of them are shared, and the other 2 are, have injuries. But I was wrong about all 4 of the shared backfields. And now my 2 injured guys, I don't have to be backed up. I'm 0 for 6 when it comes to finding a starter.
But the upside on those guys.
Screw the upside. If I'm playing in a best ball tournament against 200,000 people and I need to score max points, that's the only time I care about upside. But guess what? I don't play in those tournaments because it's like winning the lotto. if I play a few, if I take a few chances in those, I back myself up with some 12-team leagues that I know I can win money in. And that way I'm spending, maybe $20 on chances at the lottery ticket, but I know I'm going to win that $20 entry back more times over by playing more of the 12-team leagues. But have a backup plan that doesn't have to come off the waiver wire, and be humble and realize, hell, if I was really good at figuring out who the best player is coming out of college into the NFL, I'd be a general manager of a freaking team and not, a fantasy football guy. So that's where you got to have the ability to laugh at your own abilities and say, I'm going to take both sides and I'm going to be right, even if I'm wrong.
Nice.
For me, and even if I explain this, I'm still I'm kind of mad at myself. I took a lot of Rashee Rice early before the flip on his suspension. I had the idea, and Dennis kind of hinted that that's a good idea, or maybe he told me. I don't know. We mind meld, and it's hard to remember. But when I thought Rice would play 4 weeks, and I'd draft Godwin, and Godwin would help me when Rice was on suspension, and then Rice would come back at the end and win me the league, right? But after they flipped in the first 6 weeks, I quit taking Rice altogether. And now that I look at it, I wish I had Rice for my playoffs. Maybe maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I missed, not to say to reach for him, but there were times when he actually was worse, his ADP, after they did the flip on the suspension time, that I think I could have got him around later that I was getting before. And I kind of let that play in my head. And I just, instead of making a decision, I stopped drafting him and just didn't carry through with my original plan. And I'm regretting that. And same thing, it's about information. I probably took too much Kamara, and I didn't think the effect of a new guy, new system. I didn't emphasize enough that, probably because I probably didn't do that kind of research, so I didn't really know what's the expectation of that situation. And he's getting a little older, so I kind of underplayed that concern and overplayed, the 6 weeks that, it's all to crap now, forget it. And that was, I was being ping-ponged too much extremes. I was hitting the ceiling or the floor, and you need to be a little more steady. And, I did pretty good, but those were two that I think I let things outside the player bother me more than they should have. And I don't know quite how to phrase that, but that was what I feel right now. I feel like Rice, I'm going to feel extra sad if he wins people the leagues in weeks 14, 15, and 6. I'm going to feel, if he Gurley's everybody on that final week 17, if you remember, I was on I got Gurleyed, and I'll never. I mean, I got spanked so hard.
I have nightmares of that.
Man, I was just counting my money.
I finished 4th overall in a contest where I was the only person in the top 10 that had Gurley or Austin. So Mike, I got your message. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got to drop, that's all good with me.
I have to drop because I only have about an hour and a half of sleep in the past. I don't know. God knows how many hours.
No. With the amount of times I know how many times you've been sick this past few months, man, go get your rest. I appreciate you coming on.
And I was going to say, Joe, you should do a show with us, this group, on consistency versus upside. You're going to see us talk about high floors and consistency, probably over upside, especially in redraft. And I talk about floor play all the time, right? And
Opportunities.
yes, and we could talk about it against those high upside guys forever. And like in best ball, yeah, high upside, yeah. In tournaments and DFS, high upside, yeah.
High upside, yep.
You want to play redraft and cash DFS, you need a lot of high floors and some upside. But we can go on forever. But yeah, I have to go to, the balance. I have to go to bed, guys. I'm sorry. I dropped that in there. I don't know, 15 minutes or so ago. That
I saw it, but these guys, you know how this line.
It's not John. Don't blame John.
I used to get paid. I used to get paid by the word. So I think ever since that happened,
this is not a 20,000 word essay. You can have less.
Mike, we'll see you.
Yeah, we'll see you guys. Have a great night.
Take care,
Have a
Mike.
good
Always
night, Mike.
great.
We love you.
One of the absolute smartest guys in fantasy football. I'm telling you, Mike he's so calm with his demeanor and he's so reserved. He is one hell of a smart fantasy football player. The guy is thinking at that next level of ahead with his adaptive style of draft and the way he manages teams.
Follow him. Yeah.
His 0-4 team will make the playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
I just want to say that, he couldn't make the live Boston Scott Fishbowl draft because he was sick. I got him to draft over the phone. I had to send him pictures of the draft board. He texted me his pictures, and the man is 7-1. I think he has the most points for. Don't quote me on that. I have to double check. I think there's three teams that are 7-1. I'm 6-2, but I've gotten lucky with the schedule. I'm not as high with the total points as the top three teams are, but excellent fantasy football player, a great friend. Appreciate you for joining, Mike. Definitely get some sleep, man. Have a good night. We're gonna move on. We're gonna go to the next subject, which is. I would like each one of us to pat ourselves on the back for somebody that we hit on with with our takes, not necessarily guys we drafted too much. I mean, I do have some shares of the guy I'm going to mention, but guys that we were higher than consensus on, got people that were down, the consensus was kind of down on, but we were a little bit more confident. For me, that particular guy, and I remember talking about it with Dennis through Twitter, even live at the expo. And for me, that's Cortland Sutton. We're going to bring up he is currently the wide receiver 12 in PPR. We were worried about him being consistent. We were worried about his target share going down with the emergence of the youngsters, Troy Franklin. They drafted Pat Bryant. They went out, signed Evan Ingram. They drafted RJ Harvey. We know Sean Payton likes to spread the ball around. He's unpredictable as an offensive coach. His first game against Tennessee, he had 6 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown, 9 targets. He does have 27 targets through 4 weeks, 18 receptions through 4 weeks, 3 touchdowns. His second week was his only dud. I think Indy defense at home took him out of the game. He did have 4 targets. He only had 1 reception. We also saw that was probably Bo Nix's worst game through 4 weeks. He only had 1 catch for 6 yards. But, what makes me feel confident about him is usually when a defense shuts down a player, We know the NFL is a copycat league, and sometimes it can carry over for the next week or even the week after that until the offensive system readjusts and finds a way to get the player back on track. However, the next week, he went against another extremely tough secondary on the road in the Chargers, and it was a divisional matchup, and he stepped up his game. He had 8 targets, 6 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. It was his best best game of the season so far, 23.8 PPR points. This past Sunday, he had 5 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets against Cincinnati, 19.1 PPR points. The thing with me is I feel like he, as much as I mentioned earlier, Sean Payton's unpredictable. He spreads the ball around. The only constant, when I looked at the Denver offense before the season started, I said to myself, the only constant in this offense is going to be Courtland Sutton. Now, with that being said, we know J.K. Dobbins has been great so far. But this past week, against a weaker rush defense, I suspected myself that this would be a good time to try to get R.J. Harvey some momentum, and that's certainly what happened. He got a bigger snap share. Dobbins did close out the game fantastic and went over 100 yards. But up until that point, where the score was out of hand, Dobbins and I think Harvey might have been outproducing Dobbins based on his increase in snap share, and that's something that we might want to pay attention to going forward. But as far as Courtland Sutton goes, my argument was he's the most surest thing on the Denver Broncos. He's Bo Nix's number 1 red zone target. Despite Evan Ingram possibly taking volume from him, and we haven't seen Evan Ingram establish an identity in this offense yet. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And, Courtland Sutton may, have a dud game here and there based on the defense he's playing and which defensive coordinators they're going against. They might want to try to take him out of the game because it's a known thing that he is their number 1 target, their true, consistent number 1 target. But I think he's playing fantastic. If you got him as your wide receiver 3, even wide receiver 2, obviously we want him better as a wide receiver 3 based on your build. But that's where I was taking him. I was taking him in builds where I started off with 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. I thought he was an excellent target, wide receiver target in those builds. Those are the teams that I have him on. I wasn't taking him necessarily in a 0 RB build, because in a 0 RB build you want to shoot for upside. I thought Sutton brought consistency to the table for the most part. He is wide receiver 12. That's my guy. That's my pat on the back guy. Dennis, how about you, man? Who were you in on that consensus was a little bit down on?
Mine is easy because it's Travis Etienne with
Yes.
Jacksonville. I was a little concerned about the Jaguars' offense. I'm not crazy about Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a pretty average quarterback. Of course, when I say that, that's not an insult. I like to be the 16th best radio guy out of the top 32, and that's where he is. He's about 16th best. He's not a great quarterback. He's not an awful quarterback. He's just there in the middle. But everybody was so convinced that Tank Bigsby was going to take over that job, and I just didn't understand that one bit. I had Travis Etienne on so many of my teams, and I took him with confidence. Of course, I did back him up with Bashul Tutin, because I always back up my running backs if I can get them cheap. And I even have a couple of shares of Tank Bigsby kicking around, although most of them have moved off the roster by now since he's pretty much dead in Philly, unless there's major injury problems. But Travis Etienne was a guy that I thought was a slam dunk to play to his back class, which was 100 with his MVP 2 years ago. And lo and behold, after 4 games, he's at an even 100 with his MVP. So he's right where I expected him to be on his back class. Very happy with having as much Travis Etienne. It was one of those picks, Joe, though, where I had to listen to the professor. The professor is always stay with your system, stay with your strategy, because too often I'll get there and I'll be like, but nobody expects this guy to be any good. I might be wrong. Well, just
Yeah.
be wrong.
No.
Protect yourself by having the backup, and then you're just fine. But been very, very pleased with ETN.
I love the call. This is somebody I was in on as well. The whole vibe reminded me of 2022, or was it 2023? Josh Jacobs, the year they drafted Samir White.
Yeah.
And the year that they gave him carries in the Hall of Fame game. And then after that, it was, oh my God, Josh Jacobs is getting phased out. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option. Same thing with ETN. That only means he's now in a contract year. When these high draft capital players are in a contract year, coming off of their rookie contracts, they're gonna ball out. Like, that's just it's similar to Quentin Johnson, third year wide receiver, high draft capital. That's when those guys really take a step forward, and we find out if they're the guys that they're fit, they're true fantasy players or not. And QJ is in that spot. ETN, fourth year running back in a contract year. Clearly the most talented player on the back. We know Tootin has a ton of talent, but he's got a lot to learn. He's a rookie. He's got to pass protect. He's got to learn how to hold on to the ball. We know he had fumbling issues in college. That's probably going to translate eventually into the NFL. We haven't seen it yet because he hasn't really gotten the consistent amount of volume, but that's something I'm concerned about for his long-term value. I want to see him protect the ball over the course of time. So I love the call. I was in on ETN myself. I do have some shares. Wish I had more. That zero RB team that I mentioned earlier. I didn't take him. I think I might have gotten sniped. That's what happens when you go against really tough players. You don't always get the guy to fall when you want him to fall. And some people could also have the similar read to you, and they know it, and they know if they don't grab the guy when it's time, then somebody else is. So, that's part of the reason why I don't have as much of him as I wish I did. But somebody I've been in on since February. Professor?
Okay. Mine is a theme with my wide receivers, and I looked at my ownership levels, the number out of about 38. My number one is Ayuk at 23, Godwin at 18, and here's who I was proud for because I needed a high target person. Chris Olave, I know I'm a Saints fan, but I just didn't see anybody else there. Even though, he hadn't done everything, he has helped me on some teams and weeks getting 10, 12 points. Hasn't hurt me person until I can get the Godwin and Ayuk and Rice back. And I would have had a higher on Rice if I would have continued with this wave that I'm hoping is going to really help me. Having that much Ayuk and Godwin is the time here. And thanks to Dennis, I have 16 shares of Woody Marks just in time for the bye week. And thank you very much. Tip of the hat. My Chupacabra hat, by the way. I love cryptid animals that don't exist, but we wish they did. And Chupacabra is one. And Dennis knows I'm a little wacky that way. But so anyway, Chris Olave is probably not fashionable, but we have Puka, who's the second target hog in the league. Chris Olave with 43 targets. So that's not bad for what he has an opportunity to do for you. I understand there's a low ceiling, but I need 10, 12 points in these bye weeks to scrape by, and hoping the Woody Marks and some of these other folks will keep me going here. And so that's probably a weird answer, Joe. You probably wouldn't predicted that, but that's in the theme of that second wave with Ayuk and Godwin and Rice to the extent.
Yep.
And like I said, I should have carried through with Rice. But anyway, Olave's, I think he's got, I'm looking at Fantasy Pros. Yeah, 43 targets. Then Garrett Wilson, 38. Quentin Johnson, 37 with Drake London, 37. So, folks, he's got an opportunity. I mean, I understand Shaheed's there, but he's more of a boom. He's kind of a Tyler Lockett kind of player, You just got to find that week where he spikes. But Olave's a consistent target hog for that. So
a great solid floor player, awesome bridge wide receiver to those.
Yes, that would be the theme.
My three wide receivers that I own more of than anybody else are Olave, Pittman, and Garrett Wilson. And I'm happy with what I get from them every week, because if you get targets, you're going to get that solid floor, and you're going to get those spike weeks as well, because you just can't get 8 targets a week and not occasionally stumble into the end zone, no matter who your quarterback is. And that's those 3 guys. I'm happy with those 3. And then, just like the professor, I had, the Godwin and Rice coming off the bench type of deal. So I'll be sitting pretty.
We hope.
We hope. But the thing is, you got to have a formula. You got to do it. Professor,
late in the draft, you could pick these guys up.
I love it, because going back to roster construction, taking those type of players allows you to take some chances on guys like Rashee Rice, allows you to stash upside, allows you to take shots on those high upside boomer bust guys.
Ayuk, who's going to be left for him to fight with for targets? I mean, he's got to be the boss dog when he finally gets healthy, and he might start practicing next week. I'm hoping sooner than later we'll see him, and that's really going to make me healthy for the second half, roll into the play. Just get me to the playoffs, Joe, and I'll worry about the rest later. I just want to go to the playoffs.
And I think that's the key when you're playing in leagues where there aren't matchups until the playoffs, like we play a lot in. If you score if you have a really shitty week in FPPC, you get so many points behind. But if you can just keep in that 140 range every week, 120 to 140 a bad week, and then you hit one like I did this week, where I had 3 teams that were in the 190s. All of a sudden, you pass everybody. But if you have those dog weeks under 100, then you're putting yourself in a hole. It's not like in a matchup league where, hey, that's just 1 loss. No,
points
you gotta
leagues
play a little different.
Yeah,
got to play a little
leagues
different.
are different. Yeah.
But that's, again, the whole idea of you got to play to the rules of the league. So I draft very different in a matchup league versus a points league.
Yes.
Nice. All right. So let's get into the fantasy football team discussions, checkpoint through week 4.
Joe, we need to acknowledge that Trey McBride comment in the chat.
Oh, Josh is awesome.
Funny.
Yeah.
That gets the professor's gold star of the day. Okay.
There you go, Josh. You got a gold star,
gold
brother.
Star from the professor. Okay.
That's hilarious.
Trey McBride says,
I'm going to let you have 1 day off for no homework for you. Very good comment.
He does have an end zone allergy. We need to be
But that is
nice with him. That's a quick line, man. That's
Josh,
good.
We need fantasy jokes. Yeah,
Dro-
some fantasy
Jo-
jokes or
So
something.
Josh,
Come on, man.
Josh is the Bengal fan with the beard that I had on the NFL reactions week
Oh,
4
okay.
reaction show last night.
He's a character.
Great
like
guy,
it.
yeah,
I like
absolutely.
it.
He's been getting fired up about coming on the podcast.
Yeah. Get that
him,
man on there.
Him. You want me to send him a link, Josh? You want a link?
Tell him come on in. We don't care.
You want to?
He's funny.
Seriously, Josh, you want a link, and we'll talk about the rest. You can hop on the rest of the show if you want, man. Let me know. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, I don't know.
No. All right, so we're basically gonna go division by division. We're already an hour and a half in, so I don't know how in detail we're gonna go. Well, I mean, it depends on how long you guys want to go. If you want to go all the way in detail all the way through, I'm cool with that. But it's up to you guys. We'll
probably needed another show. I thought the first half was the show, and then the second was just bonus.
That was 4. We got through a 4-part. That was that was just 4 parts. We didn't even talk about play. We didn't even get into anything in that.
Yeah, but we covered a lot of ground with those 4 prompts.
We did. What do you guys say? What do you want to do? You want to touch on some of this, or I mean,
well, I'll tell you what, Joe. Why don't you pick a division or whatever you want to, and we'll just go from there, and we'll see how tired we get. It's 8:30 Central Time,
yeah,
so
we're good. I don't have to be up until I don't host the radio show until noon tomorrow, so I'm in.
And we got a show tomorrow at 2:00, Dennis and I. So we'll be.
That's right. You guys are retired and shit. You don't have to wake up in the morning.
Yeah, let y'all guys draw that paycheck.
I gotta shout out my Boston Red Sox. They won 3-1. They were down 1. They were down 1-0. They were down 1-0 when I came. Chicago.
I got my Cubs shirt on.
Yeah, my Green Monster, my Red Sox Green Monster shirt.
I'm hoping that's the World Series, man. I'm hoping that's the World Series.
That's
Cubs and Bo Sox. I would love that.
3-1. They come back and beat the Yankees. Game 1 out of the best of 3.
I hope you guys get what you need.
It's funny because I believe all 3 games are in New York because they really put a premium on winning the division. So, or what would the higher ranks?
Yeah.
So, Joe, what division or where do you want to start?
We'll start with the AFC East. So we're basically gonna talk about the trajectory of some of the offenses. From a fantasy perspective that we like, as well as highlighting any players that we're in on or out on going forward. I already mentioned Josh Allen earlier. I'll bring up another. My wife's in the chat. She said the Red Sox game just. What did they have? Did the Yankees have bases loaded with 1 out or something in the 9th inning, and we got through it? I don't know. that had to have been the situation, but. Getting back to the topic here, we're going to highlight players we're in or out on going forward through 4 weeks. I mentioned Josh Allen's obviously 1, James Cook. Those are your 2 constants in Buffalo. I got to highlight my guy Drake May, QB4 right now. He's taken a step forward this year. The offense, I mentioned it tons of times in the during training camp and during draft season, that this offense is only going to get better as the weeks go on. I expect them to hit a full peak around week 8, week 9. That's what I talked about before the season started. The fact that he's already QB4, he rushes the football like an animal. Let me bring up some of his numbers there. That way we can. So yeah, he's QB4. He's got the first week he threw for 287 yards and a touchdown. He also ran for 11 rushing yards and he gave you 20 points against the Vegas defense. Week 2 he was at Miami, kind of an easy matchup. 230 passing yards, two passing touchdowns. He had 10 carries for 31 yards and a touchdown. Rushing upside is there. Week 3 against Pittsburgh, he had 268 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and he also ran the ball 7 times for 45 yards and a touchdown. So he's got no, he didn't run for a touchdown that one, but he does have 2 rushing touchdowns on the year. He's got 24 carries through four weeks, 76, 87, 98 rushing yards through 4 games. So he's on pace for about somewhere between 400 and 500 rushing yards. Those are great bonus points. When I say 20 points, 32 points, 26 points, 29 points, that's based on 6-point passing touchdown scoring system. So if you play in a league with 4-point passing touchdowns, you can not take that down a little bit. But regardless, he's the QB4. He's got rushing upside. The schedule is actually not that bad. I thought the Patriots drew a decent schedule this year. The upcoming schedule, he's at Buffalo. I expect that to be a competitive game. I don't think Buffalo blows the Patriots out. We always play them tough. If it does happen to go high scoring, I'm in on Drake May keeping pace. Then we got at New Orleans, at Tennessee, 2 fairly easy matchups. We get Cleveland, but we get Cleveland at home, so that helps a little bit. We know Cleveland is pretty stingy. The defense looks pretty stout this year. But then after that, it's Atlanta, Tampa Bay, the Jets, Cincinnati, and the Giants, and then Buffalo again. I mean, the schedule is pretty juicy for Drake May to continue. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks going forward. If I had to pick, I listened to the Fantasy Empire early today. Shout out to those guys. Awesome show. Some of the best high stakes players in the world. Four guys get together: Nelson Souza, Chris Vaccaro, Dan Williamson, Matt Modica, and they threw a question out there today, and the question was, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen isn't a choice. Who are your next 2 quarterbacks? And they almost all of them, except the exception of one, didn't include Drake. Had Drake May included. So I'm with them on that. I'm huge on Drake May going forward. That's it. I wanted to do my Patriots take. I'll let you guys pick something else in the AFC East and talk about it. So go ahead, Dennis.
That's a great choice, though, because that's an offense that I'm heavily invested in with both Drake May and Travion Henderson mainly in the backfield. I didn't know what to do with the wide receivers with New England. That was my only question mark. But I'm heavily invested. I'm also heavily invested in the Jets, and it shocked me because I'm never, usually I don't have any Jets on my team, but people gave up on Garrett Wilson this year when he was about to have no competition for targets. Made no sense to me whatsoever because he's such a beast of a wide receiver. He can fight his way through the double team. But look at last night. They didn't double team him. How can you not double team or put a body on him and a safety deep on Garrett Wilson? It doesn't make any sense, but they're getting away with it. And on the running back side, Breece Hall, I knew he was going to have a solid year. Again, Hall and Wilson and Fields were also cheap. That's why I ended up with a lot more Jets than I expected. And there's not a stout defense to be had in that AFC East. So there's a lot of games. I mean, when you get to play 6 games against that division, and there isn't really a defense that's super stingy. All of them have given up at least 20 points a game already. Buffalo's defense is not good. It was average before the injuries. Now it's getting weaker as we go. So yeah, I ended up with a lot more Jets than I expected, but I'm happy with it because there's not a stingy defense in sight in the AFC East.
How do you feel about possible waiver wire ad this week if he's available in your league? Mason Taylor at tight end. He's seemed to come on the last couple of weeks.
I always worry about rookie tight ends that weren't drafted in the first round. But yeah, he's wide open. He has no competition for playing time, that's for sure. And he's got limited competition for touches because who's going to take targets away? Josh Reynolds, Alan
Yeah,
Lazard. I mean,
he's
there's
got
nobody.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's nobody that scares me as the WR2 or WR3. And if I want to find a good tight end, I don't want to have too many wide receivers in the mix, unless that guy's name is Travis Kelce. But that's the exception to that rule. But yeah, the Jets. Does Will Fields end up throwing a lot to tight ends? That's the only question. He seemed to like Komet when he was with Chicago.
He's got 13. He does have 13 targets in the last 2 weeks. He's got 9 receptions this past week against Miami. I know it was Miami, but he did have 5 receptions for 65 yards. He's yet to find the end zone. So, but I feel like he's trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't have a hard time with that ad either. I think that's a good call.
All right, Professor. Any NFC stakes?
Yeah, Buffalo is if James Cook goes, they're in some serious trouble. And of course, there's a lot of teams that kind of hinge on look at San Francisco and CMC. If he got hurt, where are they? So Buffalo does have that, I think, a weakness. They don't have a true alpha wide receiver. It just is kind of like a carousel, and their tight ends, Kincaid, he's there and then he's not. And one more year for Allen to be the hero and run down the field and crash into the end zone. I don't know. I think they are ripe for maybe don't go as far as people think they will. It depends on James. If James Cook makes the season, they're probably going to be okay. But if he gets injured or loses some weeks, that's an issue. So, and then Miami is just one hit away from Tua being out. And I'm rooting for him. I want the best for all the players, but I'm glad I don't have to risk my health for playing football. I probably would never be a football player, as a family person. I just couldn't do that. But I'm glad we are obviously glad that exists, but he's a brave person that way. But Shane, it's they lost Tyreek and he was smiling. I was just like, so what? The rats are leaving the ship? What are you smiling about here?
His leg was just dangling.
Yeah, it's like what?
I think they gave him a nice little shot of something.
Yeah, maybe
the good stuff. They gave him the good stuff.
Some elephant juice or something. Yeah, they went down to the racetrack, Dennis, and got a little stuff for the horse. They inject the horses with.
Gave him a shot of Bute or something.
Yeah, some Lasix or something. Yeah, and some other stuff.
The same thing they gave CeeDee Lamb after he rolled his ankle. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's
he was going back and forth on the sideline. I'm like, what? I'm elephant. Josh says elephant juice.
And I haven't seen Vegas elephant juice. Yeah. Hey, whatever they want to call it. But they better racing through medication, folks. That's all I got to say. Better living through chemistry. I don't know. That was in the 70s. That's what my biochemistry professor was showing us, some secret stuff on the board that he had to erase. Nobody had cell phones, so you couldn't record him showing how to make LSD. But there it was, and he was showing you do this and you do that. And he looks around, okay, and he starts erasing it. I mean, he had a beard down to here, looked like a hippie. That's how he got his biochemistry degree. So this is back in the old days. They don't do this. I don't know what to do anymore, but Anyway, I think it's. I would look at Vegas, but at the odds with Buffalo versus New England, but you might get some tasty odds for the Super Bowl, and New England could interest me in a betting round, as well.
Nice. So I mentioned Mason Taylor as a possible waiver wire ad. How about Malik Washington with Tyreek now out? Are we in on him going forward?
Yeah, for a buck. Yeah,
for a buck.
Well, hey, that's how I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
My week is Isaiah Bond and then Malik right there.
Nice. I like the Isaiah Bond.
Tillman is on IR now.
Yep.
And so you'd have 4 weeks and Tyreek's gone so I'd really love to see, I'd like to have both of them. I traded away some weak players, and that's fine. I got 10 on the bench. I have, turn it around. So for a buck, Dennis knows that trick. And, Woody Marks is not available. So folks, I got 16. So I got more than half of, my league mates are mad at me. It's like, who's this fool here? And I do not use my name because I don't need anybody to get smart, smarter than me. So I have a code name or two. And so nobody knows professors out there making that money. And so, get that elephant juice going, as Josh said. Josh liked that. So he's a character, I can tell right now.
Josh is awesome.
I can hang with him on the internet, but I'm not going to go drinking at the expo with him because I don't have no more bail money. So, Josh, you're on your own. Don't be calling Professor for that bail money.
Nice.
Yeah, I like Malik Washington a lot. I actually think he could take over as the prime target. Waddle is a really solid player, but he has kind of that WR2 syndrome thing going. I think Malik Washington might be a pretty decent player. We were talking about him on my I do an article called All 32 where I include some waiver wire suggestions. And 2 weeks ago, I was suggesting to get him as a cheap ad.
Yep.
But I was expecting Tyreek to be traded, not to go out with this.
How about
injury?
Now, Dennis, you're a dynasty player, so I'm going to ask you this real quick. Would you potentially sell high on Malik Washington right now in dynasty, or would would you want to hold him?
Well, it depends on what you're going to define as selling high.
I don't know. Would you take an early second round for him?
No, because. Okay. Yeah, because, here's the thing is this injury could be career ending for Tyreek. And at the very least, that's it for him in Miami anyway. So
Kansas City's where he's going. He may not ever play again, but
if he's got a leg to stand on, that's the problem.
I'm telling you, Kansas City.
Yeah, I would not be willing to trade him for even an early second round at this point. I think he's got, I like to hold on to guys and see where they're going to go, because I think he's got all the opportunity in the world to be a fairly decent player.
All right, let's hop over to the NFC East. I'll give my quick take. It's about the Dallas Cowboys offense and defense. They're in the back. They're dead last against quarterbacks. They're towards the back half against wide receivers. They're, I want to say 21st or 22nd against running backs for fantasy points. Even tight, they're best against tight ends, but they're still in the bottom half against tight ends. We know that CeeDee Lamb is going to eventually be back. We saw George Pickens emerge like a madman this week. I think a lot of that had to do with Green Bay being overconfident in their man-to-man coverage. We know George Pickens loves the man-to-man. He tears up man-to-man coverage. But my point is, I'm in on Dak. I'm in on Pickens. This is like Cincinnati Bengals from last year. I think that their defense is just going to give up points in bunches, and it's going to allow the offense to play fast pace and score in bunches. Dak is a quarterback, just like Drake May. He's a guy I'm going to be in on rest of the season. Javonte Williams, given how good he is as a pass catching running back and the fact that he is clearly the best running back in that room. I'm in on the entire offense. Jake Ferguson.
Ferguson. So you got those three. I mean, that's a good on the offense side. That's really good, Joe. I agree with everything you just said.
So I'm investing heavily in Dallas DFS slates, especially when they're going against another poor defense that has a good offense. That's a game you're going to want to target for DFS. Just that whole Dallas offense, and I will say that we did lose Malik Neighbors for the year, but with that being said, I think Jackson Dart is an absolute stud. I'm a Jackson Dart truther to the bone. I just think he brings he has that it factor, and I think he's going to elevate the offense. Every single one of those pass catches. I think you might see Theo Johnson is another waiver wire target for you if you're hurting at tight end. Maybe throw a few bucks on Theo Johnson if he's available.
Historically, he's got some back activity from last year, and yeah.
And great reds. I think he emerges as a red zone target. His name Darius Slayton. I think that his target share is about to go up. Wan'Dale Robinson, we already know he's had two pretty boom games early on. He had 140 targets last season. I think he could emerge as a safety valve. I talked about that last night on my show, on the Week 4 reactions show. And the fact that they're going to be playing behind in a lot of games. I just think that Jackson Dart he's got the rushing upside as well. He's somebody that has the potential to be a back end QB1 going forward. Those are my NFC East takes. I'll leave the rest of the division for you guys. Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, I believe I heard from a friend of mine in Philadelphia that went and got a gallon of milk today and saw A.J. Brown's face on the milk bottle. So, he's just missing. I don't know what the hell is going on with that passing game.
This is me. This is me manifesting A.J. Brown to the Patriots.
Oh my God. A.J. Brown is way too talented to do that little. And same with Devonta Smith. I mean, and it's not because Hurts can't throw. Okay. It's just, I don't know if it's offensive philosophy. I don't know what it is, but that's the thing. But you are so right. Again, that's another division where the defenses are not great. Like even Philadelphia, who is supposed to be this mega defense, and last year was all world defensively.
They played above their head last year because Barkley stole the time. He stole the time. He literally did.
Yeah, but when they were all healthy and they were all on the same team, they were a stout defense. They were very tough to beat. They could stop the run and they could put pressure on the quarterback with just four guys. So, but this year, they lost a couple of guys to free agency. That's the joy of winning the Super Bowl. You can't keep them all. And I don't know if they drafted as well as they could, because I just look at that defense as being, they're still good. They're still, well above the average, but I think they can be beat. And, Dallas Cowboys defense, I think they'd be better off to put the cheerleaders on the field, because at least they would distract the other team, because right now they can't tackle and they can't cover. Other than that, they're pretty good at everything else you do in defense, which I think is just walking onto the field. but yeah, that's my biggest surprise this year is, I didn't end up with a lot of AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, but the shares that I got, I don't know what the hell to do with them at this point, because you don't feel like you can bench them, because AJ Brown's got like a 3 touchdown game coming. He's got them saved up. But Devonta
Okay.
Smith, anytime
He's
he
due.
anytime Devonta Smith catches the ball, he can go the distance. So you got 2 guys who are dynamic playmakers and ain't making plays. It's just very confusing to me. Didn't end up with a lot of them, but the shares I have, I don't know what the hell to do with.
Their passing attempts hasn't exactly increased either, and I anticipated that to increase, and it just hasn't until they were down 26-7.
So they're 4-0, but they only have a plus 20 point differential. How the hell do you do that? That's like what the Chiefs did last year. You know what I'm saying? It's winning all of these 1-score games, and that's not how I expected the Eagles to be playing this year. I expected the Eagles to be bullying people with some passes. You got so much talent between AJ Brown, you got Devonta Smith, and you got Dallas Goedert, and you don't have a passing game right now. It's a mystery.
Barkley can catch passes too, and they don't necessarily utilize them that way.
No.
Washington is injury is the story there. They kind of started, and then Daniels, and then the running backs. Bill's the darling. Now he's not. He's in the doghouse. Poor Bill. I don't know what's happening.
Terry McLaurin's hurt too.
Scary is hurt. So we're just, Ertz is, he's last person standing there, and he'll collect his, but we just that team, for them to get back in the hunt, needs to get healthy, and we'll see. I think McDaniels, they got he showed last year that there's stuff there. Their talent is just got to get it going, and Scary Terry needs to be scary instead of not scary.
How about Alvin Kamara in a Commander's uniform?
Well, I got a lot of shares.
I would love that. I would love
Boy,
that.
that would step it up. Yeah. You think they're trading Kamara? I keep hearing these rumors.
Yes, I think so. They have to. Why else would they keep him? I mean, Kendry Miller got some more run this week, and he looked pretty good. He scored a touchdown. He had, almost 5 yards per carry.
And they got a decent rookie on the bench too. So
yep. Yeah, I'm stockpiling. I'm stockpiling Neal too. Yep, for $1. Yeah.
Look at what Eckler did in that offense.
Yes.
And look at Kamara, who is a younger version of Eckler. It could get scary with Kamara in that offense. I
think
they got the cap space.
I think it's bubbling. I just don't know if it ever's going to get beyond simmer. And I'm not sure it's all going to be cohesive, Dennis, if it's starting and stopping like this. And you need to be – and Philadelphia, if they ever figure out exactly what they're doing, they should, take this division but just to let you know, Dennis, their efficiency is spectacular, is number one as far as points per time. I'm just saying, I don't know who they're getting the points to, but it's working compared to the whole league if you scale it up. And we'll see that tomorrow. I've got my new efficiency numbers out, and they're there. And but Philly is right there. And again, this is weeks 1 to 4. And so Baltimore's number 2 because of Lamar, and Detroit's number 3. Seattle has sneaked in to the number 4 spot this
That's
last
interesting.
4 weeks. So they're doing much better than you would think. So I'll unveil that tomorrow at our podcast. We'll talk about the efficiency and whatnot, Dennis. So you'll be excited. I'm just saying Philadelphia scales at 112 out of 100.
Oof.
So there are number 1 in the last 4-week efficiency, which is yards per game, points per second. And I don't know what they're doing.
And the scary thing is they should be even better.
They're toy. They
See,
feel like they're
there you go.
they're just
There-
toying, as Tip Baja mentions. They're just toying with the NFL right now. They're playing the time. Sirianni's a time of possession guy. That's one thing I learned last year, and it's certainly carrying over this year. They're just making sure they're doing what they need to do to win the football game.
Yeah, they're
not
playing football, not fantasy football. I can see that.
All right, let's move on to the AFC West. I will leave the Chiefs for Dennis, and I will talk about Justin Herbert and the Chargers. This team has definitely surprised me this year with the way that their offense is being deployed. I think that Najee going down opens up the door for Amari and Hampton to pay off his ADP, which I thought he was being a little bit overdrafted during draft season because of Najee's track record. And then the firework thing happened, and then the injury. So it's basically a lost season for Najee. Hampton now I view Hampton as an RB1 going forward. He had over 150 scrimmage yards and a touchdown. Or did he have 2 touchdowns last week? I don't remember, but he put up almost 30 PPR points. Quentin Johnson's the real deal. Talked about it earlier. One of my things is those high draft capital wide receivers entering their 3rd year. You got to pay attention to that because those guys, that's when they step it up. We've seen it time and time again. Devontae Adams took time to get going. Nico Collins didn't have the high draft capital, but we did know that he was talented. It took him till his 3rd year. It's just that 3rd year is where they take that next step, where they go from good to elite, and they start paying off their NFL draft capital, so to speak. Other guys in their 3rd year this year is like Drake London. It's been one of my draft strategies since forever. I mean, I've been playing fantasy football since 1997, and it's one of the first few trends that I've noticed. So, if you were in on Quentin Johnson, kudos to you. If you drafted him everywhere, he was basically free. He was going beyond, round 14 and beyond. Little bit concerned about Ladd. I do think that he might get going towards the second half of the season. We know Keenan Allen sometimes can fade if he's getting consistent volume. He can kind of fade down the stretch, or he is, possibly susceptible to injury. We know his shoulder, he's got a bump in it. The bones are already coming out of his shoulder. And Arande Gadsden, he's going to be inconsistent because of the pecking order, but tight end you want to keep an eye on for sure. I definitely think with Greg Roman's history of using the tight end, somebody you want to stash. Just Justin Herbert, he is the biggest beneficiary. Let's look at where he's at currently right now. As far as the quarterback rank goes, he is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's QB 10. QB 10 right now. I think he holds. I think he stays in the top 10. I think he maintains that throughout the season. another player that went late. This whole offense was a value, with the exception of Omarion Hampton. But Omarion Hampton's going to pay off at his ADP as long as he stays on the field going forward. I'll kick it over to you, Dennis, to talk about your Chiefs.
Well, first
If
on
you
the
if you want.
Oh yeah, I definitely will. But on the Chargers, Najee Harris is out. Hampton is going to get such high volume, and it's not that I expect him to go down with an injury, but this is the NFL, and injuries happen in the NFL. I think Kamani Vidal is a great $1 stash on the end of a bench, especially if you got Hampton. Stash Vidal for $1, and he will pay off for you if something does happen to Hampton down the road. For the Chiefs, they got to find a running game. If they want to be serious about getting back to and winning the Super Bowl, they've got to find a running game. They saw a little bit more last week against a bad defense. But what impressed me with the Chiefs' attack is they went with a 6 lineman attack and double tight ends. So they beefed up and they ran the ball just fine. But it was against Baltimore, who has a hard time stopping anything. And it's amazing to say Baltimore Ravens and defense sucks in the same sentence, but here we are. So until further notice, or until the Chiefs figure out that 6 lineman scheme works against other teams, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. And that's why I like Mahomes this year. And I loaded up on more Mahomes this year than I've had, because back when he had a good left tackle the last time, it was 2022. Remember how good he was in 2022 without wide receivers on the team. Now he's going to get Rashee Rice and Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and this kid Tyquan Thornton, who is better than people think he is. He was another guy who was a decent draft capital guy out in New England that they gave up on after he broke his collarbone. So you have that all together with Juju Smith-Schuster and Travis Kelce. You've got a passing game that is going to be hard to stop. And the only way to stop that is to play a little bit more 2-deep safety, and that will be when the Chiefs can actually figure out how to run the ball. But if they can keep Worthy healthy enough and get Rice back, I'm looking for big things on this passing game, and Mahomes is already well above where he was drafted. And he's the best non-running quarterback. And then every once in a while, it gives you some rushing yard upside as well when they leave him alone in the pocket. So my Chiefs are looking pretty good on the passing game side. And I want to see, Jacksonville has a decent run defense. They're okay. And so I want to see if that gimmick of using the extra linemen is something that they can get away with. And Reed, he's going to play that a couple of weeks pretty straight, and then it's going to be a Kelce or one wide receiver who's going to be able to pounce when the defense tries to shut it down. So I'm looking for good things from this Chiefs offense. They're already scoring a bunch of points, and they got actually one of the best defenses in the division right now as far as keeping other teams off the board. So looking for good things both in fantasy football from any of the wide receivers. And also Kelce is going to get really cruising here starting this week.
I got to mention a potential waiver wire ad here from the Chiefs. How do you feel about Brashad Smith? He was he got 4 targets, 3 receptions for 27 yards. He was on the field for 10 passing plays. That's this early in the season, and the fact that when I think of Andy Reid, I don't think that he experiments with things. When he deploys somebody, it's very much a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like he's he's confident in what he's doing. It's not by accident. It's not an experiment. So I'm intrigued. I mean, I drafted him in a ton of spots. I already own him, so he's not available in deeper leagues. But some of the shallow leagues, he's probably available. Definitely, in my opinion, worth throwing a few bucks on. I mean, don't go nuts, but
Well, he could be the best. He could be the best running back on the roster. Not just catching passes, but he is the Jet McKinnon role that Reed loves. He's a fast guy. He'll be schemed in the red zone, especially down in those goal line, inside the 5. Remember how much Reed loved using Jet McKinnon, whether it was, having him come in motion and getting those little shovel passes from Mahomes, or running wide, or, doing anything with him. Speed is a nice problem to have. So, yeah, I like Brashard Smith a lot. I think he will emerge as the season goes on, and he was one of my 5 late round rookie running back targets, along with Woody Marks, him, JCM in the early portions of the drafts. And, those are the guys that I loaded up on because I think they will emerge as somebody who can do something. And right now, Pacheco looks like he lost a step. Hunt actually looks better than he did last year, but that's still a long way from being a great running back. Brashard Smith's got speed to burn, and he's got great hands. The kid used to be a wide receiver, for crying out loud. Running back's a new position for him, relatively speaking, and he's fitting in pretty well.
So the snap breakdown, just the total snaps for the running back room this past week was Kareem Hunt with 32, Isaiah Pacheco with 27, and Brashard Smith with 19. So he's definitely slowly getting worked into the offense. If he's available in your league, definitely go get him. Go ahead, Professor.
Yeah, Denver. Well, Vegas. We probably don't need to talk a lot about them. They're one of the top, the bottom in efficiency. They are bad putting points up. Denver has a shot, but I just don't. It's still not gelling here. RJ Harvey, right? He's behind where I think they wanted him to be. Sutton is the bright light. I agree. Ingram, is he going to be the Jimmy Graham? It's a perplexing team to me. I do like Bo Nix as a QB2. If you drafted him there, you probably are happy. Super flex, but I don't think it's their year to challenge the top 2 that we've talked about. And I don't think the Vegas is going to be in the shot for anything. So there's some good players. Like I said, I feel sad for Bowers. Good player he needs to go somewhere else where, after Kelsey retires, Kansas City needs to grab him. And there you go. Then the dynasty starts again. But I think, doesn't Taylor have a little sister or something? Maybe about time for Bowers there. So you'll pull the Swift magic one more time. Andy Plotzy saying he's playing chess, folks. He's ahead of this. So he'll get Tyreek back, try for Bowers. Who knows what's going to happen? Dennis has got the hotline. Like Batman used to have the red phone. He's got the Chiefs' red phone in his closet back there. And so he's probably calling right now. Anyway, Denver's got some players. I'm just not seeing the cohesiveness. And by the time they get that, it may be maybe they get in the wild card. Be nice. I like those players, I'm not sad about it.
I feel like Dobbins and Harvey might sabotage each other a little bit.
Well, they cut each other a little bit, and that doesn't help.
Yeah. Dobbins has looked fantastic. Don't get me wrong, and Javi
yeah.
does has burst, but it's going to be hard picking which one is going to be the guy each week.
Yep.
And it very well could be both of them, and you could end up with like 11 points from Dobbins if he doesn't find the end zone.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
And 13, 14 points for Javi, and just you're going to be unsatisfied.
And you're kissing your grandmother at the end of the day, and that sucks, right? So, that's what you got. I believe that.
Like I mentioned earlier, the only constant seems to be Cortland Sutton. And
he's the bright light there. Yeah.
Yeah. And nobody has, it's going to be hard to pick out the sailing guy when defenses decide they want to shut off Cortland Sutton. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know who's left. Yeah. Maybe
Troy Franklin. Is it going to be Troy Franklin? Is Pat Bryant Pat Bryant can come out of nowhere with a big game.
Ingram, if he's going to move up, he needs to do it sooner than later.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know what we're going to see on his trajectory.
All right. So let's hop over to the NFC West. 49ers, Seahawks, and Rams, all 3-1. Cardinals are 2-2. I touched on the Cardinals running back room earlier and yesterday's show. 49ers are pretty simple. When Kittle comes back, obviously he'll be involved. CMC is, as long as he's on the field, he's an RB1. Brandon Ayuk, you mentioned earlier, Professor.
Well, I hope
when he comes back, if he's healthy, once he gets a couple weeks in, he's probably
they need him.
Going to be the number one target. Jawan Jennings hasn't been stepping it up. He hasn't even been fully healthy either.
Yeah.
Just the whole
hurt. Yeah.
The whole offense is been struggling to stay on the field.
Yep.
Seattle Seahawks, again, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet kind of sabotage each other a little bit. They're definitely hurting each other's ceilings. I think unless one of them is to miss games, there's no big 20-plus point ceiling. You might get a 20-point game out of one of them if they score touchdowns, but JSN is the one constant there.
Sounds like Denver, doesn't it?
Yeah,
with
it does.
The structure.
It does a little bit. JSN is currently the wide receiver 8. No, wide receiver 7 PPR, 72 points, averaging 18.08 points per game. It's got 34 targets, 26 receptions, 402 yards. Only one touchdown though. But I'm looking at the list that the top 10, and everybody has multiple touchdowns with the exception of Puka and JSN. So we know that he's consistent every single week. So somebody you can plug in and forget. That's pretty much all I got for that division. Dennis, you want to touch on anything there?
Probably didn't hit the Rams, right?
Any potential waiver wire targets?
I'm going to leave the Rams talk to John, because I'm just going to point out how crazy it is with San Francisco's injuries that we're talking about how many snaps Kendrick Bourne and Sky Moore got at wide receiver. When you're talking about these two players, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
When you are scraping the bottom of the barrel, they have only scored 80 points in 4 games with Christian McCaffrey being all world. It's phenomenal to me how much of the offense is going through one guy without Kittle, without Pearsall healthy, without Jennings healthy. I know they're out there, but they just don't look right. San Francisco, if something happens to Christian McCaffrey, that team is in for a world of hurt because the whole offense is going through him right now, and they still have only scored 80 points. To me, that's phenomenal. But that's the one takeaway I have from that division.
Stafford, I think, has been putting things together better. He was a pretty cheap buy, and probably in Superflex, you're happy you have him. I don't know about this week, but overall, Puka has been a revelation, and he's just been super target hog. And why not, right? He's just seems like he's everywhere. He's one of these. It's just here. I mean, he's just wherever he's there, and he's doing all these different routes. And at least it looks like it on the red zone. I don't, I'm not a film person, but and Kerwin Williams, he's had 2-3 good games. He's had, he needs to be more consistent if they want to move ahead in this division. So we'll see what happens, but and see. Who's their tight end? Do they have a tight end?
Higby right now.
Yeah,
he had a lot, the rookie's injured. So
okay. Higby was something long time ago, but I'm not using him any which way. So I think it's like seeing if Puka gets hurt, then they can stack the box and shut. It can get lean quick. So there's a lot of hope on one player scenario here, as well as the San Francisco people. So
crazy to see Puka at an MVP of 200, a perfect 200 right
that's
now.
Crazy.
After 4 games, and
that's crazy, Dennis.
Devontae Adams is at a 100. So it shows that they've been able to coexist on the same team and both be, really good for fantasy football. And boy, Stafford, if he can stay healthy, is a bargain. I've even been able to
in Superflex,
Well, I've been able to pick him up in 1 quarterback leagues, off of waivers, and I'm like, man, he's a great backup to have in case other problems happen. But I kind of wish I would have grabbed a little more Stafford late in Superflex drafts as my 3rd guy.
Yep.
I've got some, but not enough.
Yep.
Nice. Josh with the comment, does Puka have the same end zone allergy as McBride? I'm going to give my thought on this. I think that the more red zone targets that Puka Nacua gets, the higher chance of him getting injured goes. So maybe this is something. Maybe I'm speculating here, but we know that Puka, when the space is condensed a little bit more, you're susceptible to more contact, and I think maybe they're trying to avoid that. Maybe that's why they went out and got Devontae Adams, and that's why they have Kyron Williams and Blake Corum both. Seem like they're great red zone area running backs. So that's my take in a vacuum, I guess, on Puka not finding the end zone as much as he possibly should, because he's outstanding wide receiver.
Yeah, he only has 10 career touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, I believe. That's incredibly low for a guy that's had this many receptions over the 3-year career.
Yeah.
42 receptions. That's almost double everybody else.
All right.
I'm looking at Olave's got, Ra's got 27, Wilson 27, JSN 26, Chase 26, Olave 26. So Puka's 42.
Puka's already halfway. He's already halfway to 1,000-yard season after 4 games. It's insane.
Yes, it is crazy.
All right, AFC North. We have the Steelers leading that division 3-1. The dumpster fire Bengals 2-2 after a 2-0. Sorry, Josh. Josh is a Bengals fan.
Oh man.
After a 2-0 start, but it's hard. When you lose your all-world quarterback, that's what happens. The Ravens with Lamar possibly quitting on his team. I mean, I don't know if the hamstring. We'll find out if he misses the next week or two. Then we'll know the injury is real. But I don't see them sitting him out and shutting him down for 2 weeks unless he's actually injured. So, I'm waiting to see the injury report on Friday for that. Cleveland Browns are 1-3. Cedric Tillman just went down for the year. You guys mentioned Isaiah Bond earlier. I'll let you talk about that later. I'm going to talk about T. Higgins. Are you guys starting him? Are you guys putting him on the bench? I know that me and Steve D'Angelo share a team, and we put him on the bench this past week. And I'm a little bit worried about him going forward. Not so much. I mean, I don't think you can bench Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is a guy that you need to die with. If you know what I mean. I know you, Dennis. You mentioned that you benched him, but I'm not benching Chase.
Mike Reedy.
Mike benched him.
Yeah, he's gutsier than I am. I couldn't budge.
I wouldn't bench.
But I am glad I got way too lucky in drafts this year. And I was getting a lot of number 1 picks in leagues, and I started taking more Gibbs with that first pick, Gibbs and Bijan. In back
I
first
don't
round
hate
picks, I went running back instead because I was like, again, Professor and I always talk about the what ifs. When you look at a player, what is the worst thing that could happen?
We're seeing it.
With Chase, there were 2 bad things that could happen. One, he could get hurt, obviously, or Joe Burrow could get hurt. Because the last time Burrow was hurt, Chase was a very average wide receiver. Still very good.
He still got the volume too, but it was less
more like
yeah.
He was
27.
He was more like a 10th to 14th when you look at his weekly upside consistency. So he wasn't all that great. It wasn't first pick in the draft material. But Higgins, we've got that problem. Professor and I manage an FPPC dynasty team.
Yep.
And when we get CeeDee Lamb back, we'll have CeeDee Lamb, Egbuka, Devonta Smith, and Higgins as our 4 wide receivers.
Yeah.
And we even got Kupp sitting on the bench, so we could bring him off the bench as well. And we've got enough running backs. We've got Chuba, we got Bucky, and we got Scatabo. So, and then we got Pacheco. So let's say Pacheco all of a sudden starts running better behind this new 6-man offensive line. Now all of a sudden we're going to have a decision every week on what we have to do with Higgins. And that's scary because that's not a guy that I expected to have a decision on, because the worst of T. Higgins, he's been a flex starter for you. And with our team, with that much wide receiver talent, but now it's like, what do we do? But yeah, the Bengals are, they've already given up, 119 points, and that's not worst in the division. The Ravens have given up 133. I mean, we think of the Baltimore Ravens are going to be a good defensive team. They've always been. Well, they aren't anymore. And they really haven't been since they got rid of, Patrick Queen. When he was on that team a few years ago, he was dynamo. And they just haven't looked the same. That's a weird division right now because
they just
nobody wants to take charge.
They just had somebody hit I can't pronounce his name, but he's a defensive lineman.
You guys
know what I'm talking. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, and he's gone.
That's coming back. That's a big loss for sure.
That was their main run stopper on that defense, and they weren't even stopping the run with him. So that's a scary sight. But he was taking up a lot of room, but he was also taking up attention that was allowing their edge rushers to do well in the past. And now without him, they're doomed, man. They were really a bad defense with him this year. And now without him, they're going to be really, really bad. It's it's scary times in Baltimore because, Father Time seems to have come to visit Derrick Henry finally. He just hasn't looked the same this year, and he fumbled the ball 3 straight games. I mean, criminy sakes, that never happens. So, Justice Hill is a guy that I'm glad I got a few shares of just in case, but I'm not. Boy, it was like it seemed, when I was watching it on Red Zone, the end of the game, the second half of that game, it seemed like it was the Roberto Duran, no mas, no mas. He just didn't want to come back into the game, and I just don't understand that because Lamar is he's a fiery competitor. He don't want to lose, but he didn't look like he was all that dinged up, and he just didn't look like he wanted to even give it a try. And that was very interesting to me. It kind of makes me wonder if he was kind of doing the math and saying this season's going nowhere.
Pittsburgh is the surprise for me. Aaron Rodgers is like, what? This guy's 3-1. I mean, is just efficient in what he's doing. He's doing what he's doing, and that's good for Pittsburgh. And it's like I'm trying to. I get who's the wide receiver that's pulling the load.
DK.
Yeah, and he's imagine him being connected with Rodgers, and they're having a time. So it's like Pittsburgh wins kind of by default. Everybody else is crumbling, and the termites hadn't got to you yet, so you're gonna your branches are bending, but you're still upright. So Pittsburgh looks,
Pittsburgh is 3-1, and they have more. They have more points against than points for.
Yeah.
So it sounds like
like Mike Tomlin hasn't lost his touch yet. That's what that tells me.
So
every team in that division has a negative point differential right now. I don't think I've ever seen that in the history of divisions of the NFL after 4 weeks. It's incredible.
And 2 of the teams don't have a losing record. The
Bengals are still Cincinnati's 2-2. Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I still can't, just based on that fact alone, I still can't count Baltimore out. But you said, Dennis, the glass is definitely half empty right now.
Yeah, 3 weeks. So if they, Cooper Rush, so if they're down 1-6, if he misses 3 weeks or what, I don't know when their bye week. Man, how are you going to come back from that? Even 2-5, even if they luck into something. That's rough.
What if Dylan Gabriel can play football?
I saw that. I saw that little blurb out there on the internet.
What if this guy's decent?
Because the door's open.
Here's the thing with Cleveland. If you look at their defense looks a lot better than a defense that's given up 102 points in 4 games because they've been giving up a short field so often. They're just turning the ball over in their own half, and the offense hasn't
Flacco.
The opposing offense hasn't had to do much, and that's scary if all of a sudden they do away with the turnovers and Dylan Gabriel is. And now I'm not making this bold prediction that Dylan Gabriel is going to be a great quarterback. What if he ain't bad?
He's a game manager, Dennis. They could eke out some wins.
What if he's just doesn't turn the ball over and he can get the ball to their receivers? I mean,
Isaiah Bond.
Stranger things have happened, and Cleveland is probably got the best defense in that division right now. And if they just stop turning the ball over, crazy things could happen. I don't have any faith in Pittsburgh. The Bengals are done without Burrow. Their offensive line is just bleh. And the Ravens don't look interested. Like their defense, even in the past when the Ravens have been like giving up some points on defense, they've hit people hard. They didn't even look like they were interested in hitting guys. Like the only time they hit any Chiefs was after the whistle blew. It's like they took on some penalties. It's like they're just not playing smart football and they're not playing good football. That's a bad combination. And now without Lamar for a couple of weeks, if they lose Lamar, that's it could get ugly fast, guys.
So, quick fantasy football question. Is Caleb Johnson droppable?
No. Rookie running backs eventually get out of the doghouse. I would hold on to him.
If you can.
Yeah.
Dennis, it depends on shallow bench. I mean, there's a lot of factors.
Yeah.
If you got a deep bench, 10, like we do, I'm keeping my few shares.
FPPC, 10 bench spots. We play different.
But if you got 5 or 6.
If you got 5 or 6, then it gets tough to hold him.
Yep.
But if you got him, you should have had Jalen Warren. Like, that's shallow bench leagues, I especially like to have 2 backfields locked in. Then I don't have to think about waivers.
That zero RB team, I have all 3. The one I talked about, but Jalen Warren was out, so I had to roll with Kenny Gainwell.
It worked out okay.
Pretty soon, I think I might be playing them both, Gainwell and Jalen Warren. That's how bad that running back room is. But yeah, and Isaiah Bond definitely worth a small bid for sure.
He is a fast human being.
He worked his way up to the third wide receiver on the depth chart, and now he's got an opportunity to do something with a little bit of volume. So definitely worth an ad.
They're going to be like the all potential suspension team too, with Judkins and Bond, and they got Watson on IR. They got the bad boys there. I'm convinced that Judkins is matchup proof after this past week against what he did against Detroit. It wasn't the great, 21 carries, 82 yards, but he managed to be involved in the passing game and be effective there and go over. I think he had 21.3 PBR points, or it's somewhere in that range. I can't remember. But can he stay away from doing something stupid again?
Yeah,
that's my problem with Judkins right now.
The fact, it could go either way because he didn't get disciplined, so it can go either way. It could be a wake up call that snap him out of it, or he could be, or it could be a bad thing that he didn't.
I'm not rooting for bad things because I don't ever root for bad things.
You want good things.
Want good things. And
be sweet. Be good.
That's not just because I have about 4 or 5 shares of them on different teams. I want these guys to stay out of trouble. I want to make sure there's a, Rashee Rice has an Uber ride always available, and keep these guys out of trouble is the main thing. So,
all right, let's move on to the NFC North. We at the Sports Affiliation have an actual show dedicated just for the NFC North, Black and Blue. Iggy, JC. Help me out, guys. Andy Behrens and who's the who am I missing?
Greg?
And Greg Kellogg. And Greg Kellogg.
Don't forget Greg.
The Hall of Famer, right?
Greg.
I didn't forget Greg. I gave him.
Greg, they're forgetting about you down here. You need to get in here.
I gave him Thursday check down back. I didn't forget about Greg.
Okay.
They each give their, Greg does the Detroit Lions, Andy does the Bears, JC does the Vikings, and Iggy does the Packers. They do like a little 5-10 minute recording each week on.
I think they've already done it this week, hadn't they?
Yeah.
Later.
I
forgot when it is.
Yeah,
Black and Blue, right?
Yeah, Black and Blue is the name of the show. Excellent. It's not long at all. It's like 15-20 minutes altogether. Maybe a little bit longer than that, but definitely not over a half an hour. Check that out for sure. But this is this division is probably the most interesting division. Every team is pretty good in some aspect. I feel like the Minnesota Vikings might, because of their quarterback, might be the cellar dwellers when all is said and done. But we'll talk from a fantasy football perspective. Professor, you talked about Jahmyr Gibbs being a number one pick. So I only got the number one pick once, all draft season.
Yeah, Dennis did that.
So I took Chase because if you don't take Chase there, you don't have any Jamar Chase shares. So, but I am totally not opposed to going Bijan or Gibbs there if you had more than one share. I'm particularly when the elite running back, when there's clear cut elite running backs, I like to go running back with that early of a pick. It's not the back end of the first round where some of the elite wide receivers can fall to you, or you can double tap wide receiver, or if you were sharp enough, you did wide receiver than Jonathan Taylor. But Jahmyr Gibbs is I said it going in, even with Montgomery on the roster last year in those games, he still averaged 18.9 PPR points per game. That he's got the best floor. I mean, Bijan might take the cake there going forward because, he has proven that he is the elite number one pick. You probably will be the number one pick next year if you go RB. But Gibbs, most consistent floor there is at running back. Jamison Williams has been a little bit of a disappointment. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, we didn't mention him earlier. He's somebody I wish I had more of. I had the number 11 pick in a big draft in New York, and I took Brian Thomas. St. Brown I kind of wish I did St. Brown there. He's been awesome. He's going to end up back in the first round next year without question. Caleb Williams, one of my bold predictions coming into the season was he would finish as a top 10 quarterback. He's currently in the top 10. We'll see if he can keep it going. I think game script and can sometimes hurt him, I guess, in just the Chicago Bears. Some games that they get blown out or tougher defenses kind of still give him a problem. He does show some inconsistency, but he does have rushing upside. Roma Dunze has been a smash. He's having his breakout season before year 3. This is year 2, right? He's doing it before year 3. I'm kind of manifesting a DJ Moore trade to New York Giants. I would love to see DJ Moore help out the rookie Jackson Dart, and then that way the rest of that offense can flourish. Luther Burden can emerge. I think that Ben Johnson came in and he picked his 2 pass catches in the draft, or he invested early draft capital on both. Colston Loveland was the 10th overall pick. That's pretty high for a tight end. So I think DJ Moore's days are numbered there. But the Bears offense as a whole is improving. The Green Bay Packers ended up with a tie, first tie of the season this year with Dallas. I don't know why Dallas didn't play for the win there and go for a touchdown, but pretty tight knit division. Fantasy points points to go around all over the place. I don't know. You guys have any takes?
The Bears have the most points against them, if that means anything. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But it's a great division. Everybody's, at least 2-2 or better. So it's going to be a feisty division, and there's going to be lots of goodness around if you drafted. I do have a nice bit of Sun God. I just checked my shares. I got 10 out of 38. I'm happy. Not enough Puka. Only had 5. Only have 2 of Chase. So must not have got lucky, or I think sometimes I took Bijan. So
yeah,
I got lucky, folks. It just, sometimes you just feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. And I was feeling a little wacky one day and picked Bijan over Chase.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it at all.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I had the number one pick more than once, I probably would have mixed in Bijan for sure.
I did. Yeah. I did.
Yeah, I could not believe that people were actually suggesting that Jameson Williams would take over as the lead wide receiver on Detroit. I thought that was like there's a range of logical outcomes in everything in fantasy football. That wasn't one of them.
Dennis, that is under the floor right there. That's
so
what we call under the floor. Yeah.
Without Sun God getting hurt, that just wasn't happening.
That's in the swamps. That's what we do in Louisiana. If if you bother us, you're gonna be in the swamps, and that's where he is.
Back in May, I had Sun God ranked as the number 1 wide receiver in Dynasty. He's the only wide receiver who has finished with an MVP of 120 or greater 3 years in a row.
Yeah, that's got to be top 5.
He was a lock for being great. It was criminal that he lasted past the 6th draft pick this year. If I was drafting outside of the top 8 picks and I could get Sun God this year, it was like, bring him on. Because
Dennis, I did that and got Puka coming back around that horn, around the turn.
Yeah, that's the way to go. That was the way to go.
That was I'm happy.
Yeah,
I did that twice. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's the thing is, there are guys that are so ultra consistent in PPR leagues, and he is one of them. The other guy that I want to mention is the guy that got totally ignored at quarterback this year in drafts, and I was getting him so cheap. I was taking him as the backup in a lot of cases. Jordan Love had the backup class of being a top 10 quarterback, and he was like being ignored. And I have so many teams again this year that have a combination of Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, and Dak at quarterback, whether it's one quarterback league or a super flex. I'm thrilled with those 3 guys as my quarterback because I can mix and match and play matchups between the 2 of them all year long. And I've got golf in some leagues that I do the same thing in. Having 2 really good quarterbacks, you can Frankenstein a top 3 guy together if you play the matchups right.
Yep.
I agree. Yep.
I got 12 shares of Love. I'm very pleased.
Yeah.
I have like 3 or 4 teams where I have Caleb Williams and Jared Goff on the roster, and I've hit them right. Hopefully I can continue to do it, but I've hit them right every week so far.
Yeah.
I grabbed Caleb Williams as my 3rd quarterback in a lot of super flex, and I was shocked that
I have a ton of them because he is going beyond round 12. Sometimes he fell to round 16. I got him in round 16 in New York in a live high stakes draft in New York, round 16. For somebody that I thought is going to finish top 10, man, I'm taking that pick all day. So. All right, let's move on to what division haven't we gotten to?
South, I know because
AFC South.
I'm doing the Saints, but y'all can fight amongst the Dirty Birds and those silly Panthers.
That's the NFC
Idiot.
South. We're
Oh,
doing
well,
AFC.
I'm ready. I got Saints. Saints are my team.
All right, AFC South. Surprise team, Indiana. Not really surprise team. I thought they'd be pretty good as long as Jonathan Taylor is healthy, and that's the Colts are 3-1. The Jaguars are 3-1 without Lamb Cohen actually figuring out what he wants to do on offense other than utilize his running backs. Houston Texans are 1-3. Tennessee Titans 0-4. Doesn't surprise me there. Last night, we talked about it earlier. Calvin Ridley being complete dust. I think he might be.
It's sad.
Maybe some hope for him down the stretch if he is actually hurt and he gets healthy, and maybe Cam Ward can put some momentum together towards the end of the season. Maybe you can get a flex start out of Calvin Ridley. Who knows? We do know that Jonathan Taylor is a smash pick this year. If you took him, good for you. He's currently RB3, and McCaffrey, him, and who's the other one up there? James Cook and Bijan, Gibbs. That 5 is going to flip-flop all year long, but it wouldn't surprise me if all is said and done, Jonathan Taylor stays healthy. He finishes as the RB1. He's an absolute beast. His ceiling is through the roof. That's definitely one take. You mentioned Michael Pittman earlier. Dennis, I have a lot of Pittman myself. Great consistent floor, somebody you can start. You probably drafted him as a flex as well. He's never been cheaper in drafts this season. Definitely the best pass catching target there. Also, my most owned tight end, Tyler Warren. He's been a pleasant surprise this year. He's currently the tight end 4. He's averaging 13 PPR points per game. He's got 27 targets, 19 receptions for 263 yards, and he hasn't even found the end zone yet. He does have a rushing touchdown, but not a reception. He got a rushing touchdown this past week. He's got the fact that he's got 4 carries through 4 weeks means, when they get in the goal inside the goal line, they've mixed it up. It's been Daniel Jones, it's been Tyler Warren, it's been Jonathan Taylor. You don't know who's going to get it, but the fact that he's being mixed in there is just a little bit of an extra bonus. So, if you have Tyler Warren, you're playing him every week. There's no doubt about that. That's pretty much all I got. Other than Brian, I'm sticking with Brian Thomas. I think eventually they'll figure it out with him. And, I think a lot of it has to do with quarterback play. Trevor Lawrence has been kind of shitty, inconsistent and shitty. But, you invested a first-round pick on the guy. How can you bench him unless you're loaded at wide receiver or you scooped up guys off the free agent list that are panning out, Maybe Ayamana takes another step forward. I don't know who. Maybe you took Quentin Johnston, can bail you out a little bit, but other than having 5 or 6 options at wide receiver, I don't see how you can put him on the bench. I think eventually they figure it out. He gets going. I don't think he's going to have the ceiling he had like he did down the stretch last year, but I do have hope for him to get back on track and at least give you some top 24 finishes at some point throughout the year. But I'd be sticking with him. I wouldn't bench him. Dennis?
Yeah, I'm amazed that with the lack of offense that Houston has had, that Nico Collins has still managed to be okay. He's not great, but he's not bad. And his MVP after 4 weeks is at a solid 100. I mean, that's
Nice.
good. But CJ Stroud's been like really inconsistent. I'm hoping that Woody Marks will spark that offense and lead to even more scoring. The rookie wide receivers for Houston have been an absolute bust to this point. You have hope for Higgins and Noel in dynasty leagues. Didn't draft much of them in redraft. My guy that I took a late flyer on was Iomanar from Tennessee, and
I got a lot of them too.
Ward's been awful. Like, I have been really disappointed because I thought Cam Ward was gonna be pretty darn good. I didn't think he was going to be Jaden Daniels, but I thought he was going to be Jaden Daniels light. And what he's been is like a natty light. It's been leaving a horrible taste in my mouth that I was wrong on Cam Ward for now. But it is a long season. He's a rookie, and I'm hoping for better things from that team. But yeah, Colts have been amazing. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Pittman has worked out really well for folks. I don't trust Daniel Jones. I think he will revert to being a turnover machine, but he's got a live arm, so the wide receivers playing for him will do well. And I've always been a Jonathan Taylor fan. If he stays healthy, he's one of the best backs in fantasy football.
I do want to mention it. Dalton Schultz and Strange for Jacksonville. I've been using them a lot as my tight end streamer types, flipping them in and out. If I waited way late, or this week having Kraft on bye, I've got a lot of Strange and Schultz backed up with them. And so I don't know. I do a lot of tight end streaming, so I really like Strange. Dennis likes Strange a lot too. Yeah. We both agreed that was our tight end 2 optimal choice that late, and I haven't been too disappointed. ETN, I have 12 shares. I'm very pleased. I was all over him and like I said, Javonte. And so I was all in. I was happy, and he's just been a revelation and a surprise. So that's, and Lawrence is Lawrence. He's a he's a guy, and he'll do what he does.
Nice. All right, let's move on to the NFC South.
Is this the last one?
It's the last one. We made it.
Getting tired. Can I start with my Saints for y'all hog my good players? Okay, I told you Olave. Olave was our hope, and he is a target hog. Shaheed is our stretcher guy. He's going to stretch them out and get them touchdowns. If Rattler can get seasoned, right? So down in New Orleans, you got to season that gumbo. Okay. So and the Saints defense is not as bad as people squawked about early. Their efficiency is still below league average, but they're moving up from the bottom. And I'm hopeful that we're building, and I agree that probably Kamara is best served elsewhere to help somebody this year. But they hadn't called me in a while. You could tell since Drew retired. So that black and gold phone that I got hidden from Dennis. So make sure he doesn't see me talking to him. It hadn't rang in a long time. So just to let you know, they do have the Drew Brees broom closet down at the Hall of Fame. You have to go through the Andy Reid's face shield collection and Taylor Swift ticket stubs, and you finally, okay, there's the Saints. I tried to buy a shirt. They had 3 shirts in the whole damn thing, and it was just a sea of Chiefs. It's just, what the hell? 3 Saints. Come on now. 3 And it was people I didn't. Who is that? I don't even know who these people are. No, they didn't have a Drew Brees shirt. Now I do have one since my last name is not Bosch. It is Bush, B-U-S-A.
Yeah.
Reggie Bush is.
JC.
Yeah, JC. Come on now. Come on, man. I love you, but come on, Bosch. Yeah, I feel like I've been squashed in Bosch, but anyway, I do have my Reggie Bush Saints jersey that I wear if I need a win. But the moths are starting to eye it, to chew on it this year, so I'm going to have to put it way in the back, so the moths are going to eat something else before they get to my good Saints jersey. But Olave's been nice. Kamara, I need you. Come on now. And Kendra Miller, I got 8 shares. I needed 16 now. I was underdrafted you, and I was sorry, and I'm contrite as a Saints fan. So I am contrite. Don't steal my gumbo recipe. I am contrite.
Two questions for you, Professor. If Kendra Mill is available in your league, percentage wise, how much fab are you dropping?
Well, you see, I'm hoping everybody's asleep looking at all these other Darren Waller and Isaiah Bott, some of these other ones, that and everybody's forgetting about that. So I'm gonna try to be cheap. He's not really available much in FFPC. The pickings are lean. There's no Woody Marks. There's no Scatterby. There's nothing.
Some of those shallow leagues, though.
It's a desert. I think if you're winning this year, you got a 3-1 for. Yeah, take him. Okay, because he could come into play later for you. If you're losing and you need a win this week, 0-4, I just don't know if he's going to help you this week. If you got room, take him, but it depends on your team structure and your score. If you're a winner, grab him. Did that answer?
One other question.
Okay.
Are we going to see Tyler Shuck at any point? Or is Rattler going to be the guy there the whole time?
I'm hoping that they're going to give him a lot of leash. I don't know enough about the backup guy. So, see, my dog is upset. So I'm hoping that they'll give Rattler time to. Nobody gives these quarterbacks time anymore. In the old days, when back when you started fantasy in the 90s, they would give these people time. Nowadays, first game, you didn't do anything. Next, off with your head, and it's crazy. Give the boy some time down there. Feed him good. Take him down there to get him some beignets and some coffee and perk him up. Okay, take him out, let him wrestle a gator. Him and who was it? Steele from KC was the gator. Find Steele, learn how to wrestle some gators. Okay, you can do this. Saints, the true Saints fan, not these fly-by-nights that showed up 2006 or whenever Drew Brees won at 5. They bought all this new stuff. I still got holes and coffee stains in mine. My tears are all over my jacket. Where you been? These new folks. You just wait. Saints, you become something here, and all of a sudden everybody's a Saints fan. Who dat my ass?
Dennis, you got anything to add?
That's a tough act to follow. What I'll say about this division, I was right about Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
He was a guy that I was drafting well ahead of ADP because I thought he could be the best wide receiver on the Buccaneers this year during certain points of the year. Because I didn't know how soon Godwin was going to come back, and I didn't know how long Mike Evans would stay out there. And I said, this kid, even if both of them are on the field, he could be the best wide receiver they've got. And I drafted so much of him, and that's been my biggest success. He has an MVP of 150. That doesn't happen. Like the last last rookie wide receiver to start that strong was Puka Nacua. Like that, this is unbelievable. The year that he's starting to put together, he's a very dynamic player, and several years ago, I thought he was the best wide receiver on his college team, and there was that was when he was a sophomore, and there was a lot of talent on that team, and they've all succeeded in the NFL, and he might be the best of them all.
I'm looking to see if there's any update on the Bucky Irvin injury. We do know that he went for an MRI today.
I think he's going to miss a couple with that ankle. Ankles are not good injuries to have. I was impressed that he came back out and played on it, though. That showed a lot of heart for my man Bucky, and I've got a ton of Bucky Irving on teams, especially a lot on dynasty teams, because I was all over that kid.
Nice. So, do you think Rachaad White is serviceable as a flex play or an RB2 fill in? Especially, you got like guys like Bijan on by this week, and
Rachaad White hasn't been perfectly healthy late last year and already this year. So I think he could do well, but man, maybe Tucker gets some play off.
Yeah, don't forget
Sean Tucker worth a couple of dollars, a nice small bid. Yeah,
$1 holler right there.
I'd throw a buck at him this week.
Yep, I've already he's in my train, my dollar train. Yeah, he sure is.
I would take a shot at him because there's going to be some upside if Bucky misses some serious time. I don't think he will miss serious time, but I think he could miss a week or two.
Nice. All right. So I think we're going to end it here. We hit the 3-hour mark. Aces Up has been a marathon show. I think we did 3 hours and 17 minutes or something last week. We've had numerous shows go over, almost all of them go over 2 hours. That's okay. I like the long game. When I first started listening to podcasts, there was the GOAT District with Dio Greminger, Dan Williamson, JD. And they used to always go 2-3 hours, and I used to fall asleep listening to it, wake up, it would still be going. So, I'm a fan of the long game. I can handle it. I love talking football with every guest I come on is highly knowledgeable, and just enjoy talking fantasy football with you guys. This was a great show. Michael Reedy was with us for the first hour.
Yay,
he did a good job. We'll get him back on.
We need to get him to the expo. He's a character too.
Yeah. Oh, Mike is a beauty for sure.
Yeah.
Josh and everybody. Pete's up in here. What's up, Pete? Thanks for joining us. I want to thank everybody in the chat, everybody that's tuning in on Twitter or X, however you want to call it. I still call it Twitter. If you can just go over to YouTube when the show's over and hit the like button, that helps us out a lot. If you're not subscribed to the sports affiliation, do so. We have shows every single day, sometimes more than one.
Our show's Saturday. Matchup Lab.
Yeah.
Boom.
Plug it. Boom, what time? Baby. What time?
We hadn't been doing it live yet. Dennis and I, we gotta pop our funny little pills and get ourselves going. And I don't know what we're going to do. We got to have just a taste of that elephant juice to kind of get us going there.
Nice.
Our tusks are long. We're long in the tooth, but anyway, we've been recording it and just dropping it on the site.
Josh said Reedy left early like Lamar Jackson.
Oh, man. That's cold there.
Appreciate you, Josh. We definitely killed the marathon.
He's a character. I like Josh.
We'll probably have another one of these in a few weeks. I don't know who my guest will be. Maybe we'll get you guys back on. We'll see. But this has been a great show. Appreciate
Yep.
everybody tuning in. Like I said, go over to YouTube, hit the like. If you're not subscribed, doesn't cost anything. We're trying to get to 1,000. We're just under 800. I'll pitch my my daughter's gonna record a cartwheel video when we get to 1,000, and yours truly is gonna attempt one cartwheel as well. Hopefully, I don't end up in the ER, but I might. What do we got?
Chupacabra.
Nice.
Chupacabra, goat sucker.
Nice.
That's my lucky hat. People think I'm weird walking around Walmart.
Nice. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Dennis and John, thank you again. What do we got? Tomorrow night we got Carla's show, The Game Changers. I believe she has Rick Wolf on.
Nice.
8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Tune into that. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you guys. Everybody have a good night.